main thing that I'm concerned with is more the interiors. There is a recommendation that existing alterations should be evaluated. These are the words I quote from Council.
This is especially the case given that many of these pubs are of dubious heritage value and there hardly seems to be overwhelming community support for protecting them. On the costs, this policy change is clearly intended to add more restrictions on development. We can argue about the magnitude, but the direction is clear. This will add cost, complexity and uncertainty to changes of land use on those sites or developments that are near them. It also adds to cost, complexity and uncertainty for their existing owners, as we have heard, who want to make improvements to what are in some cases quite decrepit buildings with poor environmental and accessibility credentials. Now to the lack of benefits. 26 pubs is a large number of sites to restrict housing on or around in one go. It's striking that the Heritage Report recommended the listing of every single one of the pubs considered. Either the council is unbelievably good at choosing sites and the report was a waste of money, or the bar for heritage listing has been set far too low. The public consultation received 23 submissions in favour. In a council area of 190,000, not even one person per pub cared enough to make a submission. I think that tells you something. Every single owner who made a submission was also against. This is hardly a groundswell of support. I personally live near several of these pubs. They're nice, but I could live without them. I don't want to live in a museum to the 20th century. I want to live in an affordable house in a dynamic and changing suburb. When you read things like the heritage value is people used to enjoy listening to live music here in the 80s, you sort of start to wonder what the council's priorities are. So in conclusion, I'd like to urge the council to reject further restrictions on home building, on development in the inner west, because at the moment I feel like my local government's obsession with the past is crushing my future.
Not sure if I agree with that. That was a pretty good line. Okay. Next item, item 6, Callan Park Tidal Baths. Our first speaker is Louise Appel of Lilyfield, who is online. Louise, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. I'm just getting my video up and running. Okay, so yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, councillors. As the proposal exists in the minutes, I am against it, and that's primarily because of a lack of transparency. You get good community feedback when the community have good data. Of course, the community want a tidal pool. I want a tidal pool, just not this one, and the reasons are particularly things like accessibility. It shouldn't be seen as a positive. The nearest public transport is buses. They're a minimum of a 20-minute walk from Balmain Road or Victoria Road, and it's very hilly terrain. On the 23rd of April, we sat at a local matters forum, and the Inner West Council announced the Bay Run to soon be vehicle-free. This is supported by the Landscape Structure Plan and follows the closure of Waterfront Drive to cars. There is a supporting DA, which is 2022-0449, which was approved last year for a car park on Wharf Road, which is about 250 metres or more away from this pool. Greater Sydney Parklands do not have a plan for emergency access to the waterfront in their current active DAs. If it is even possible to build a new path to the pool in a significant heritage-listed parkland, those people with disabilities have first to get to the new path. The next point is the safety of the site. There are really well-established oyster beds and they're on Callan Point rock shelves. Now the pontoon is closer to those rock shelves and diving will be super dangerous. The Inner West has a bigger proportion of the age groups that are overrepresented in drowning statistics. The Life Saving Society states that wherever possible, unpatrolled swimming spots should be avoided, particularly for less accomplished swimmers. The current proposal does not include lifeguards. On security, Callan Point is without exception the most remote part of Callan Park, particularly at night. Some swimmers will use the bay run or be picnicking, others may not swim in daylight hours. Callan Park is a beautiful and safe place during the day, but there are no restrictions on alcohol consumption and many dark corners after sunset. I know this. I have lived next door to Callan Park for nearly 35 years. If anything goes wrong and you have no access to emergency services, you've got a really big problem. And then on facilities for swimmers, the council have conceded an outdoor shower in the latest draft of the plan, This will last only as long as it takes for vandals to find it. There are no residences, therefore no eyes at Callan Point. The nearest toilet's 180 metres away. There's also one at King George Oval, but there is nowhere to change. There are no shops or cafes of any kind. Mort Bay got proposed to have a tidal pool. Locals have swum there for years, including during COVID. It is such a better alternative. It's enclosed by a park with toilets, with footpaths, a residential area, including cafes, and there is public transport right at water's edge. I would prefer a council that looked after the personal safety of its community, including the age groups known for unusual risk-taking behaviours, particularly at night. For a third of any given 24 hours, Callan Point is remote and isolated, the worst possible place for a supposedly safe community pool. For a healthy, resilient, caring community, there are way better ways.
Louise, I'll ask you to conclude your remarks, please.
That's it. I've got one line left, Darcy. It's the best one, though.
Callan.
It is the height of presumption and arrogance to commit nearly $4 million of ratepayers' money into a vanity project in an election year without making all of the shortcomings perfectly clear. And that's it.
Thank you for that. Our next speaker is Paul Power of Rozelle.
Good evening. Thanks for having me speak. My name is Paul Power. I'm an executive member of Friends of Callan Park. I'm going to read these points because I have a number of points to get through, so sorry for not speaking to you direct. From the proposed Callan Point tidal pool, there has been much discussion about water infrastructure, while Council refers any land issues to the Greater Sydney Parklands for later determination. However, it's vital now to consider how the pool access, hard paths and increased swimming foot traffic will impact Callan Point, the only remaining unspoiled 24/7 all-green site that is exceptional culture heritage listed landscape. Currently, Callan Point has no cycling, scooters or skaters, no sports fields, no dogs off leash, no hard paths, no water views obstructed by the bay run. Thus, no safety concerns for the disabled, seniors, small children, and general picnickers to absolute waterfront. It is exceptional and discriminatory for the parklands around Sydney Harbour to deny these folks access to meander safely on our foreshores. Yet, 80% of Callan Park waterfront is dominated by sports fields or cross-cycle access. 90% of water views are obstructed by the bay run. To access the proposed pool, there will be no adjacent foreshore parking, no adjacent changing rooms. The nearest is the new $1.7 million open plan unisex toilet, 400 metres away at Veterans Green, or the same at King George Park. Also, free tidal pool access could be countered if council pools offered safe and $1 access to all under 18-year-olds. If Callan Point progresses, it would be most undemocratic to waive a mandatory DA process, as critically in this instance, numerous government agencies will be involved. I do not object to a harbour pool, but fairness to all and common sense should prevail to reconsider possibly a Mort Bay location. This is a public park, not a town square. Light hands always when dealing with Callan Park. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Power. Can I clarify whether you were speaking on your own behalf or representing Friends of Callan Park? Thank you for that. Next item, item 8, Local Traffic Committee, Giselle Mesnage.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors. I want to thank Manod for clarifying what the council will be considering tonight, because when I attended the local traffic committee, at least I was concerned that one of the crossings being proposed tonight, of the two crossings, are on the Cardinal Freeman Village, and Manod explained really well that what was being proposed is a race crossing, but that there will be scope at there's a community workshop being arranged, and that some of the concerns I have about these new flat top crossings will be addressed at the community workshop, and so thank you. I want to give an example also of how important the crossings are. Today, I wanted to go to the Ashfield Aquatic Center. I wanted to join an hydro aerobics class, and I wanted to have a swim. But I have to go with a support worker because of the lack of crossings at the moment. And then when my support worker rang last night to say she had hurt her knee, so she couldn't walk with me. And if I could walk the aquatic center by myself with my guide dog, and I could do that if there were crossings, then it wouldn't have been a problem. But today I had to, have the disappointment of not being able to walk there. And so I really urge you to not only create those crossings as quickly as possible, but also to make sure that these are accessible crossings for people who are blind, and you've got the documentation on that. Also, I want to bring your attention to that the City of Sydney is developing a walking strategy and action plan. I've been participating in that, and the good news is last night at the Sydney City Council meeting, there was an amendment passed to some of the work we've done with one of the councillors, and the council adopted their strategy, but part of the amendment is that they will be working with the Inner West Council and the Community Workshop and Border Streets to copying some of the activities we're doing in the Inner West. So the City Council has already taken note of what the Inner West Council has been doing with the crossings and making sure they're accessible. So thank you for whatever you're doing, And also want to thank you for having these public forums ahead of the meeting. I do feel sorry for you having to work till 11 o'clock tonight, but when I was at the City Council meeting last week at one of the traffic committees, we waited 6 hours to speak. Today, only, like a little bit of time. So thank you for putting it ahead of your agenda and listening to us. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Giselle. The next item is item 22, Notice of Motion, Steel Park Off-Leash.
Mayor, Jennifer Moon from Guide Dogs was, I'm not sure if her registrations to speak I think she's here to speak with me.
I thought I registered, so apologies. Is that all right to speak for 3 minutes?
That's fine. What's your name?
Jennifer Moon from Guide Dogs.
Okay, thanks very much, Jennifer.
Thank you. Yes, just on behalf of Giselle and her issue. So Guide Dogs, Principal Advisor for Access and Stakeholder Education. This is a much bigger issue than what we're dealing with what Giselle is dealing with. We did a national survey last year where 80% of people who are blind or have low vision have difficulties or lack confidence crossing roads that are level. It's perceived as being perhaps the best accessible design when in fact it is not for our stakeholders. It's incredibly unsafe and doesn't allow independence. So we don't want council to be producing these crossings because it is actually designing out the ability to travel independently within council areas. We're working with City of Sydney, we're working with Waverley Council, but we're doing this piecemeal business of trying to improve the design. So we'd like to work with council to actually come up with a much safer design for everybody, including people who are blind and have low vision. And I do applaud council already because we've had a meeting with some engineers and certainly other councillors in here on board, knowing that it's such a problem and we need, as an organisation, we need to be out there advocating, and that's what I'm doing here now. A lot of people don't realise it's a problem. As beautiful and as clever as our guide dogs are, they don't know to stop at dots on a flat surface. They know to stop at a curb ramp. That's where they're told that they need to then be reinforced by their handler to say, yeah, you're right, you're about to step onto the road. You need to now listen carefully to know if it's safe. We also have the issue of e-vehicles. We don't have an AVAS system, the acoustic vehicle alerting system in Australia. So our vehicles are getting quieter. So again, that's causing problems. And we're not just talking street crossings, even though we are here tonight. We're talking shared zones. We're talking shared paths. We're talking anywhere where these areas are intersecting with other mobility devices, particularly the micro-mobility. So the survey highlighted these massive things that are coming through with urban design. And as I said here, as a representative of guide dogs, teaching people how to travel with guide dogs or long canes to access their community. I guess I plead to Inner West Council to continue to work with us. Let's come up with a really safe and inclusive design that can be used across all councils in Australia and allow people to access their community safely and independently. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Next item is item 22, Steel Park Dog Off-Leash Area, and the first speaker is Therese Skinner of Marrickville, who is in person.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, councillors. My name's Therese Skinner. I'm representing Marrickville Football Club today. We have objections to the Steel Park Off-Leash dog proposal based on the following. Significant impact on the quality of the playing surface. The digging of holes increases the risk of serious injury and makes it very dangerous for kids to play football. It's dangerous for the kids at their training sessions and while they're playing matches, dogs running around off-leash, chasing the ball and chasing them, and this has happened in the past. We already have examples of owners allowing dogs off-leash and those dogs attacking other dogs or children whilst they are playing. It's a disruption to matches with dogs running on the field during play. Irresponsible dog owners not following their dogs and cleaning up their mess becomes unhygienic for kids, stepping on poo while they're playing around the football field. Most importantly, Marnie Park is just across the road, and that is already an off-leash dog park, and there's also McNeely Park just up the road from there as well. Thank you for your time, and just wanted to let you know that there are objections.
Thank you very much for that. That was very succinct. Our next speaker is Bella Mystery of Marrickville, who's online. Oh, okay. I'm very sorry to hear that. Are you here to speak on her behalf?
No, I'm speaking separately.
Okay. John Yale?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. Council's 2023 figures suggest there are 42,000 pet dogs in the Inner West. Assuming an even distribution across all of our area, that's 6,774 dogs in Marrickville, and there are 4 off-leash dog areas for all of those dogs. Currently, Marnie Park is, as the previous speaker has said, just across the road, but it is a very busy oval used regularly for sporting events, and when those are on, there is no available area as the entirety of the off-leash dog area is covered by the sporting oval. What we are seeking for at Steel Park is an area that starts partway up one football field and goes up to Thornley Street, nearly half of which is not part of the sporting field. I do hear the previous speaker's concerns. However, I would like to speak to what I've witnessed. I'm not actually a dog owner. I have lived locally for 10 years and have regularly walked through Steel Park and made friends with a lot of the dog owners. It's a thriving community. Obviously, everyone there is currently 100% law-abiding and dogs only escape occasionally. However, the locals perform very useful roles. Most of the dog dirt that's left behind is not left by the locals, it's left by visitors. People bring their dogs to pick up their kids, they're not prepared, they haven't brought their bags, their dog has an accident, they walk quickly away, and I can't blame them. But people who are there with their dogs pick up after the others. There are holes made in the field, yes, but not all. Sometimes by dogs, those are filled in by owners, quite often by birds, by the various foxes and other wildlife that live in the area. Those are also filled in by owners. Because the dog group are there daily, they're aware of the park and its needs and state, and they act proactively to make sure that it's kept in as good a condition as is possible. The dog people have been very useful. Not only do they pick up rubbish and dog waste, they've also helped train and socialise a generation of pandemic puppies. They've helped a large number of lost children find their parents and stayed with children whose parents have been delayed in picking them up from sport. In the last year, there have been 4 children who've used my phone to call mum and find out where she is, and we've made sure each one of them got back to where they were meant to be. We've caught a smaller number of runaway dogs and children that have come from either people picking up their children or people walking their dogs along the river path. They always stop to see the local dogs and have a quick sniff and get a treat. And we provided significant passive security for other park users. Last year, I put together a petition which had over 100 signatures calling for this area to become an official dog park. It also asked for other amenities, which would be useful for all other park users, including extra bins and bubblers, neither of which are currently visible from the sport field that is used, and better access in terms of crossing Illawarra Road, which, as we all know, is a not very person-friendly road at the moment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for that. Our next item is item 23, and the first speaker is Andrew Thomas of Catsi.
We have one more speaker on that, Alison.
We had Therese, Bella, who's unwell, and then Don Yale. They're the only 3 that we had listed here. Who else did you have? Alison? Okay, you attempted to register, did you? Okay, no worries. Do you want to come forward and let us know your views? Are you for or against?
I'm for. Look, I know there's a lot more important issues tonight to be discussed than a couple of small dogs. Well, probably at most about a dozen small dogs being off lead. And look, we're willing to share the space with the football fields. We're not asking for the football field to move. We're just asking for, when the footballers are not there and not training, that we're able to take our dogs off lead. And I have to say, look, we're a really responsible bunch of people. I spend my time picking up some people's dog poo who are not part of our group. And unfortunately, I just consider that part of my duty. And another thing is, the holes in the football field, the field is a bit of a mess. And it's a bit of a mess also because of the footballers themselves. So I think it's a little bit unfair to put it all down to all these dogs digging these massive amounts of holes, which is just not happening. And another thing is, there's a lot of rubbish there. I don't want to cast aspersions on who's putting the rubbish there, but people come down with their coffee cups, their takeaway food, and all along the side where the football people train and that. I'm not saying it's all just you guys, and I'm not saying it's you, and I'm sure most of you are not doing it.
I'm just going to ask you to address the meeting.
Sorry, but we need a rubbish bin because the place at some points is a pigsty, and around the Steel Park area, in terms of the recreation area, and around the child welfare, the child centre, is full of rubbish because there is just not enough rubbish bins, and it looks terrible. And I really don't want to be turned into an old woman with a plastic bag picking up other people's rubbish. And a second thing, we could actually do with some water there, not just for the dog walkers, for the people with dogs, but also for the kids and the people practicing and playing, particularly in summer. As you know, it gets very hot. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much for that. As I mentioned previously, we're at item 23, and the speaker is Andrew Thomas.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of motion 23. So I'm here as the Executive Officer of the Cooks River Alliance, representing the Alliance and its purpose to revitalise the Cooks River on behalf of the community. So the motion finds consistency with the Cooks River Alliance strategic plan, particularly focus area 1, River Health. River Health obviously is concerned not with the health of the river, but is also concerned with the health of the community who gets access to a healthy river, enhanced by having access to passive and active recreation opportunities along and in the river itself. So accordingly, this motion for improving and connecting the Cooks River walking and cycling trails is highly consistent with Focus Area 1 of the strategic plan. Also, by increasing access to the river, we help people connect with the river, which helps to drive interest in its revitalisation. The motion is also timely. as the Cooks River Alliance is looking to build a master plan for the whole of the river. The Cooks River Master Plan will pull together past plans, existing plans and initiatives such as the Cooks River Catchment Coastal Management Plans. Identify gaps in information, then using what we know, develop a whole of river master plan to guide planning authorities to get priority projects grant ready. This includes a whole of river assessment of river-related recreation activities from passive naturalised opportunities through to active transport opportunities. So, if Inner West Council supports this motion, the opportunity exists to help make this motion a reality through its alliance with other members of the Cooks River Alliance, which includes Canterbury Bankstown Council, and the development of a Cooks River Master Plan. Thank you, that's all I have to say.
Thanks very much. Brian Keogh of Earlwood.
Hi, Mr Mayor, councillors, thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name's Brian Keogh, I'm an evaluation expert. So I've worked across Sydney Water, New South Wales Water, the Department of Planning and Environment, evaluating projects and telling government program organisers whether they work. It's fair to say I don't take program and project claims at face value. I look for real and defensible, attributable evidence. I'm also a local resident, lived on the Cooks River for 27 years, and I'm also a Labor Party member of the Earlwood branch, a far superior branch than the Inner West. So you might ask...
You are very charming as well.
So you might ask, why am I supporting a green motion which is the scourge of the Inner West?
No, we were asking why such an expert would come to our chambers and disparage it.
I worked with Justine on the Cooks River Alliance, and I sat with her through every meeting for 2 years. I know her very well. I know that she's got the benefit of people as her central plank. I was the evaluator. I also know that Inner West Council is the most advanced council along the total every part of the river. You do a fantastic job. Your water revolution is great. So we're looking for your lead in this area. Why a walking trail? A walking trail, I'm going to tell a story. Jo, my partner, her mum, so my mum-in-law, when COVID hit, we busted her out of the nursing home and took her into our place for 9 months. She had a motorised scooter, and every day she went along the river, and it was a joy to her. But it's not just a joy to her. There's bike riders, scooters, prams, joggers, and walkers. If you're above the age of 36, you no longer use the high-intensity sport fields. So this is a whole-of-life proposal. Last year, we installed a smart camera on the back of our place that counted the number of people that used it, and we benchmarked it against the Canterbury Aquatic Centre. The Canterbury Aquatic Centre had 466 people average attendances, and the numbers we counted and independently verified by the Cooks River Alliance was well over double that number. So I urge you to support this motion. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Keogh. And the last speaker is Neil Tonkin of Lilyfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. As usual, I represent the Inner West Bicycle Coalition. Anyway, the Cooks River Trail was originally called the Ride to Botany Bay Cycleway. It was an initiative of the federal and state governments and local councils developed in the late 1980s. It was groundbreaking at the time and an inventive use of public easements. It allowed people to walk and cycle through seemingly unconnected localities. It was a surprisingly quick way to cut through car-congested suburbs to get from Ryde to the sea. It's one of the iconic cycleways of Sydney, well known by many cycle and walking groups, and people who want a continuous car-free walk or cycle from the Parramatta River catchment to the Cooks River catchment and ultimately to the sea. Well connected to transport nodes, cars were not necessary to access it. It traverses many different environments and puts on show the best and the worst effects of human influence on the environment. It is, however, a focus for environmental education, citizen science, environmental restoration and heritage and history study, and a draw card for personal exercise. Over time, various organisations have engaged in wayfinding to connect the path to the surrounding suburbs, helping orientation and a sense of place. Often when you walked along it, you didn't know which suburb you were in. You just seemed to be in this strange parallel universe. So that was the purpose of that early efforts. The Cooks River Trail is a fundamental part of the blue-green grid through our municipality. This is a new concept, nevertheless, but an embodiment of what the original trail aimed for, a green space for nature in a densely settled area. This motion asks that a master plan be developed to enhance work that has already been started on wayfinding, exploration of the river and promotion of this resource in our midst. There is an urgency also to this task while the Bankstown to Sydenham rail line is repurposed into a more frequent modern metro transit system. The trail is being impacted by climate change with increased flooding. There is a need to have better lighting to improve nighttime usage. Active transport can't be encouraged in pathways that are not safe, especially with the variable work hours that many people have to work these days. Paths need to be amplified and enhanced to cope with the increasing patronage. Wayfinding needs to be improved. We encourage Council to undertake the elements of this motion, engaging with the bordering Canterbury Bankstown Council and the well-established stakeholder groups of the Inner West Aboriginal Service, Aboriginal Advisory Committee, Cooks Valley Association, Cooks River Alliance, Marrickville Golf Club, and ourselves, the Bostock, Inner West Bostock Coalition. Great asset to the community. We're seeking it to be maintained and enhanced through a master plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Tonkin. Next item is item 30, Ashfield Public. Are you in favour or against? Okay, I was going to say, I thought you might have been in favour. I was going to say we've already had 3 speakers in favour, but do you want to come forward and let us know your name? Is there anyone else? Can I just check this first? Because I did ask at the start. Is there anybody else who hasn't let us know that they are intending to speak on an item and tried to register but wasn't listed before? Can I ask the officers just to go and make a copy of the speakers list available? This is the last person that I allow in if they haven't actually demonstrated that they've registered. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you. So, yeah, my name's Frank McHugh. I'm from Leichhardt Rowing Club, local resident and a father of kids down there. We've got an issue with the pool in its current location. We're not against the idea of a pool, but we are against it in its particular location. It has changed location slightly since the original.
Sorry, sir, just for clarity. We're on item 23.
Item 6 it was.
No, that's not the item that we're on. We've already passed item 6.
Okay, well, that's what I was hoping to be able to speak about, item 6. That's what I'd registered for, and I didn't get a response, so I took it that I was outside, but then I'd seen that there was.
Were you here when we dealt with item 6?
I didn't hear then, no.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, cheers, thank you. So, yeah, the Callan Park tidal pool. We aren't opposed to the idea of it. We're opposed to its location. All the bay clubs, we've got hundreds of members just at Leichhardt that are training out of there on a daily basis, and in its present location, it presents to us, and in our opinion, a navigational hazard. We understand it has been relocated, but at the present location, due to the condition of the harbour floor, it can't come any closer to the shore because of the contamination and the potential disruption to the contamination. Unfortunately, it sticks it too far out into the bay and interferes with the way we circulate, both during training sessions and during race sessions or race days. And on race days, we use a 1,000-metre course and a 2,000-metre course. The 1,000-metre course marshals right where the pool is proposed, and there's a lot of congestion in that area already. The sailors as well have taken issue with it. The the course itself is the last 2,000 metre course in Sydney Harbour. We have 2 courses in Sydney, the Nepean and Iron Cove. And to lose that area to great disruption would be really unfortunate for not just the hundreds at Leichhardt, but Balmain, Drummoyne, Haberfield, and a lot of other users of the Iron Cove from as far afield as the Lane Cove River and New South Wales University and Sydney rowing clubs further down the river and other schools in the area too. So it's an effect on hundreds of people for the benefit of few. The other side to it is to have a designated swimming area that remains unmanned and unattended when inviting local kids down. I just think it's a real risk for my children and their kids, well, their friends as well. It's with lifesavers at pools at Drummoyne, Leichhardt and Elkington Park already. I can't see why it's required. But thank you for your time and much appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak.
No problem. Thank you for that. Okay. Item 30, notice of motion, public Ashfield Public School artwork. Karen Manning, online. Karen, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for all the councillors and for all the visitors who are here today. My name is Karen. I'm a Ashfield local, and I'm also the artist in residence and an art teacher at Ashfield Public School. I am very much supporting the display of an artwork, a whole school artwork that was created last year with our students. So all 504 students participated in the creation of this artwork. We've partnered with Inner West Council with several artistic endeavours in the past, including the current photographic installation, which is on display at the Newtown Art Seat. And last week, I was very fortunate to be able to speak to Councillor D'Orenzo, who kind of floated the idea of the large-scale work that we created, which is a kind of a giant quilt, essentially, kind of 14 metres by 3 metres roughly, to be on display in council chambers possibly. And so I'm very much supporting that and also offering my time to assist with the installation of that work as well, to not, kind of impose on the councils and ratepayers money with the installation of that piece. I think it's just a wonderful, obviously I'm a bit biased, but it's a wonderful example of artwork that is created by students in public education and would be a real endorsement of excellence in public education and staff and students who attend these institutions. So, yeah, I'm very much in favour of this work being on display, and I'm also offering my assistance with that piece being installed as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Our next item is item 31, notice of motion, Sydney Gay and Lesbian Choir, and our speaker is Adam Madsey. Apologies, who's speaking from Stanmore. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Adam Madsey, and I'm the Music Director of Sydney Gay and Lesbian Choir. I'm here tonight with the President of our choir, Jodie Schneider, and 5 of our 168 members. Not to sing for you, unfortunately, but rather to speak in support of the motion that would recognise and support our choir as a vital part of the Inner West community. First, I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to Councillor D'Orenzo for bringing the motion forward. I also want to acknowledge the Council's ongoing support for the arts, its commitment to fostering diversity and inclusion, and its strong leadership in connecting with and supporting the LGBTQIA+ community. For more than 32 years, the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Choir has been a vibrant and integral part of the Inner West. We promote inclusivity and celebrate diversity through the universal language of music. Our choir is more than just a group of singers. It is a beacon of diversity, inclusion, and quite literally harmony. We provide a safe and welcoming space where members can express themselves, their sexuality, and their musicality freely. The motion before you tonight acknowledges our choir's significant contributions to the cultural landscape of the Inner West. By supporting the motion, the Council would be endorsing an organisation that not only enhances the cultural richness of our community, but also upholds our shared values of diversity and inclusion. Our members, many of whom reside in the Inner West, attend weekly rehearsals, monthly meetings, and special Sunday sessions. We host 2 major concerts each year, including historically at Marrickville and Petersham Town Halls. Our performances and rehearsals bring together more than 100 singers each week, which we believe is the largest regular gathering of LGBTQIA+ people in Sydney, fostering a sense of belonging and connection among our members and the wider community. Regular access to Inner West Council spaces for our rehearsals and performances will not only benefit the choir, but will also enhance the Council's commitment to LGBTQIA+ communities and the performing arts. This collaboration would ensure that we can continue to bring joy, understanding, and respect through our music. The benefits for Council in passing the motion are many. It'll reinforce the Council's standing as a leader in diversity and inclusion, be a practical demonstration of the Council's support for the arts, and would enhance its connection with and ongoing support for our LGBTQIA+ community. And it will also demonstrate a tangible commitment to creating spaces where all community members feel valued and supported. So in closing, I urge Council to vote in favour of this motion. The motion is a clear way to celebrate diversity, foster understanding, and build a more inclusive community through music. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Adam, and apologies again for the mispronunciation. Our final item for the public forum is item 32, Notice of Motion, Safer Walking Around Mackie Park to Tempe Station. And our first speaker is Neil McKenzie of Marrickville, who is speaking for, and I believe he is online. Do we have you, Neil?
Yes, you do.
Thank you. Proceed.
Thanks. I wish to speak to item 32, Safer Walking Around Mackie Park to Tempe Station. It should, in my opinion, also say and beyond to the Princes Highway. As a local resident, I'm fairly appalled by the perilous state of the Tempe Station precinct, the car park, the adjacent railway land, and the northern end of Kendrick Park. As a parent of 3 teenagers, I often get evening calls that one of my kids has missed a train or a train stop or is walking back from Walleye Creek and is therefore heading into this area. And in light of recent reports of the assault of a young woman in this area, it's becoming everyone's nightmare. Without digging very deep, many members of our community have come forth with their own negative stories to me. In the last month, I've spoken to councillors about this issue. I've written to the Lord Mayor and the Minister for Transport and believe there should be an urgency to address the very obvious safety issues around the Tempe Station precinct, especially as it's set to see much increased number of visitors with the shutdown of the T3 line. Every landowner and manager has some responsibility to act here, and I think the obvious things, the area needs proper lighting, security cameras, improved pathways, including clearing up and opening vistas, an expanded railway car park with improved lighting and landscaping and bike facilities, repairs to the broken fences, barriers, including the dilapidated unsafe pathway with overgrown landscape that heads to Griffith Street behind Tempe Station. A broader plan listed in other motions tonight should indeed address safety along the entire Wicks River, including illuminated, safe shared pathways. Whilst on safety in this area, the inadequate single-width pedestrian bridge that crosses the Cooks River at Richardson Crescent is also a dangerous and frightening prospect. And how this has not been fixed after so many years is an outrage, really. Council should put all pressure on Transport for New South Wales to address this at the same time as dealing with Tempe Station precinct as part of it. As spoken tonight, the Cooks River corridor, is the municipality's primary natural asset and can so easily become, the example of world's best practice for remediation and repair of an urban waterway, and a major draw card for visitors and residents using the river, walking its banks and pathways. And the challenge for council is to best manage and design the interface with infrastructure, roadways and facilities to ensure the safety for all users. Unfortunately, at Tempe, council's shared paths deliver people to undeniably dangerous areas, and it's like the worst thing happens in that area. I urge council to take appropriate action as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Neil. And our final speaker is Kira McKenzie, also of Marrickville, also speaking for and also online. Do we have you, Kira?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. I spoke at the council meeting last month with my father on the subject of violence against women about the strong need for an upgrade to Cooks River Path lighting and security following the violent attack on an 18-year-old girl in Kendrick Park at the Tempe Station underpass. My father and I are here once again to reinstate how vital it is that action be taken as soon as possible, especially considering the shutdown of the T3 line that will see a much larger portion of the population walking or cycling along this route, especially young people who rely more on public transport. I started my petition more than a month ago, and to this day it has continued to amass signatures and overwhelming community support, alongside an abundance of distressing stories. Some examples including a 13-year-old boy who was bashed and robbed 3 years ago in Kendrick Park, 2 young twin girls who were followed along the path and had to call the police and take refuge in the Marrickville PCYC, and 37 individual stories of women aged 14 to 50 plus years old feeling unsafe doing something as simple and necessary as walking home. As the numbers signing the petition have grown, I've been approached by multiple journalists from a variety of papers, including the Daily Telegraph, asking for details on the safety issues in this area, photos of the unkempt Tempe station, and diagrams detailing the lack of safe lighting, with pieces coming out in the papers in the next couple of weeks. My petition has also garnered support from parents, educators, and people of all walks of life, with ideas on how to continue to support and make the community aware of just how serious this matter is. It has been suggested that a nighttime fun run be created, an Instagram page for the petition be made, and that I start advertising the cause across a wider platform. It was even suggested that people begin volunteering to help monitor the Cooks River at night so that citizens, especially young women, have a safe passage home. Nothing as preventable as a lighting and security issue should fall into the hands of community members. I urge you to listen to the community and understand that this is something that is impacting people every single day. Each day that this issue is not resolved is another night of frightened citizens having to find alternative routes home to avoid the unthinkable. There has been a full month of uncertainty regarding this issue, and not only has this been frustrating for those involved in this movement, but also the entire Inner West community. It is incredibly frightening. The Cooks River should be safer, our community should be safer, and it is imperative that action be taken effective immediately. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. That concludes all of the speakers that we have from the public gallery tonight. So we'll move on to condolence motions, of which I have tabled one myself, and that is for Euphemia Bostock, Auntie Femi Bostock. We note with great sadness and respect the passing of Bunjalung and Mununjali woman, Auntie Euphemia Femi Bostock, prominent local Aboriginal elder, 2018 Inner West Citizen of the Year, civic leader and renowned Aboriginal artist. And I might say that it was a very proud moment for me to be able to award Citizen of the Year to someone who's lived such an incredible life. Auntie Femi was born at Tweed Heads, New South Wales in 1936. From the 1960s, her enormous artistic practice encompassed a variety of media, including textile, sculpture and printmaking. Her artistic training took place at the East Sydney Technical College, Sydney College of the Arts and Redfern's Eora Centre. Euphemia was a founding member of Bumali Aboriginal Artists Cooperative in 1987, an organisation that has done more than any other to protect the rights of Aboriginal artists in this country. She worked tirelessly throughout her life to promote the work and artistic capacity and improve the living conditions and rights of Aboriginal artists across Australia. In 1987, Auntie Femi's clothing designs were showcased in Paris at the Au Printemps department store exhibition, Australis Down Under. Other exhibitions include the Museum of Sydney's Bamarad Banger in 1999 and Tactility, 2 Centuries of Indigenous Textiles and Fibre at the National Gallery of Australia in 2003. Auntie Euphemia's most recognisable work is the possum skin design, screen print she produced in 1990. A section of the design was reproduced on an Australian stamp in 1999. Possum skin design fabric is held in the collections of the National Gallery of Australia and the Powerhouse Museum, Sydney, and Auntie Euphemia's work is represented in the collection of the National Museum of Australia as well. In 2001, she produced a collaborative reconciliation sculpture for the Macquarie University Sculpture Garden. Auntie Euphemia shared a creative and activist spirit with other members of her family. Her brother Lester, also a great Inner West citizen, and their brother Gerald were founding members of Sydney's Aboriginal Black Theatre in 1972. And Auntie Euphemia was also present for the early days of the Aboriginal Tent Embassy in Canberra. Bronwyn Bancroft, herself an internationally renowned Aboriginal artist who's made a home in the inner west of Sydney, wrote in the Oxford Companion to Aboriginal Art and Culture, Euphemia Bostock epitomises all that is special about Aboriginal life. She is the matriarch of an extended family, active in political life, working in many levels of artistic practice, and a mentor for her people. And so I move that Council write to the family of Auntie Euphemia Bostock to express our gratitude for the contribution she made throughout her life to our local community, the cause of Aboriginal justice and equality, Aboriginal cultural life, and to the development of younger Aboriginal artists. And that Council consult with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Advisory Committee about offering to the Bostock family the opportunity to name the proposed Aboriginal Community Centre at Tempe Reserve in honour of Auntie Euphemia Bostock. I'll move that way. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the motion? Councillor Howard?
Thank you, and thank you for this mayoral minute. It's such an incredible and storied and accomplished life, and such a contribution that Auntie Euphemia made. I just wanted to share one other sort of story. When I first met Auntie Euphemia, we were at an elders' morning tea that the council had organised a few years ago. And I shared a story about how when my family moved from Canada, my youngest son, who had this tiny little Canadian accent at the time, went to Mayoral, one of our early childhood learning centres, and he came home after a few weeks and had this beautiful little thing that he started doing every day, which was that he would say, he would greet us every morning by saying that he would touch the ground of the Gadigal land, he would touch the sky of the Gadigal land, and he would touch his heart of the Gadigal land. And I shared that story at this morning tea, and this amazing woman bounded up to me afterwards and said, "My daughter made that, my daughter created that." And it was Auntie Euphemia explaining that her family had made a really huge contribution to our early childhood learning centres and had really fundamentally worked to instill principles of reconciliation and Aboriginal justice and rights, at the earliest level where our kids engage and learn in our community centres. And she was beaming, just so proud of the contribution that she made and that her family made to the local community. And that's how I'll remember her, just that absolute beaming joy for her family and the work that she had done locally.
Thanks very much, Councillor Howard. Councillor De Cruz?
Thank you, Mayor, for bringing forward this condolence motion. Auntie Euphemia was a much-loved and revered founding member of Marley. I had the pleasure of meeting Auntie Euphemia on numerous occasions at several functions at Marley. In one occasion, Auntie Euphemia told me that she had held her father's hand while they door knocked for the 1967 referendum. I think that's quite significant. And I think the other thing is that we mustn't forget that she's left behind lots of beautiful textiles and pottery that we can all enjoy. So thank you for bringing forward the condolence motion. Much deserved.
Thanks very much, Councillor De Cruz. Any further discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. The next mayoral minute is congratulations to Inner West Citizen of the Year, George Catsi, who is the Petersham Bowling Club President and is the 2024 Inner West Citizen of the Year. The award is in recognition of the leadership Mr. Catsi has shown in transforming the Petersham Bolo away from reliance on poker machine revenue. The PBC has set such a groundbreaking and positive example for other community clubs across the Inner West. George has been an Inner West local since 2001. He took over as president of the Petersham Bolo in 2006, saving a failing club that had been slated for redevelopment. He wasn't a bowler, but he did lead a team that reimagined what a community club could be by removing poker machines and creating a thriving arts, music and community hub, increasing turnover by over 850% across 17 years. Inner West Council has resolved previously to initiate a program of assistance for not-for-profit community clubs to support them to transition away from reliance on poker machines. The awarding of the Inner West Citizen of the Year to Mr. Catsi creates an opportunity to work with him on establishing this program. So I move that Council congratulate Petersham Bowling Club President George Catsi on being awarded Inner West Citizen of the Year, and that Council receive a report to the August Ordinary Council meeting on how Council's Love Your Club program can provide incentives and assistance to community-based clubs to transition away from reliance on poker machine revenue. Mr. Catsi is to be consulted in the development of the report and its recommendations. I'll move that way. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. I just also wanted to speak in support of this. I was very honoured to present George with his Citizen of the Year award a few weeks ago with you. He is a very fine choice to be our Citizen of the Year. I'm also lucky enough to live around the corner from the Petersham Bowling Club. I walk past it almost every day. And so I'm able to see firsthand just how thriving and vibrant it is and how much it has transformed into a genuine community hub. It's so much more than just a bowling hub. It's a live music venue. It's a community meeting space. It's a fantastic event space. They host a whole range of events there. It's a community tool shed as well, and it's enjoyed by young and old and furry residents of the Inner West as well. And it's an absolute gem. And it's really, really impressive what George and the team have been able to do. They've truly led the way in showing how bowling clubs can transform and modernise into the future without a reliance on poker machines. And I'm really looking forward to working with George to help guide some of our other clubs to do the same. And I think it's really important when so many clubs across New South Wales are struggling today that we do what we can to show clubs that there is another way to continue and to be successful and to be there for the community. So thank you for moving this.
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. Any further discussion? Councillor Langford?
Just briefly, please, Mayor.
I've got Councillor Langford, then Councillor Atkins.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say I strongly support the motion. Thank you for bringing it forward. It's really amazing to have Petersham Bowling Club and see the transformation over many years, and it's really wonderful to have a place that is pokey free, and I think this is a great opportunity to share that learning amongst other clubs around the Inner West that we can actually get rid of pokies and have thriving community spaces. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Langford. Councillor Atkins.
Just very briefly to add to your congratulations. George is an incredible member of the community, and the work he has done at Petersham Bowling Club is amazing. And you know, the fact that he led the community there to stand up to Clubs New South Wales when they were told they'd never do it, they'd never be able to have a viable club without pokies, is just incredible. So I echo this. Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Councillor Stamos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question first to the relevant officer. How many nominees did we have this year for Citizen of the Year?
I'll put that question to the officers.
Through you, Chair. For Citizen of the Year, there were about 10.
Yeah, thanks for that. Given that we had 3 councils in the past, we ordinarily would have had 3 different Citizens of the Year for, for an area the size of the Inner West. I think it's fantastic there that George Catsi has won this year, and congratulations to him and the work that he's done. Mr. Mayor, I'm wondering whether we could accept the following amendment to your motion, that Council investigates an increase of up to 3, not necessarily, but up to 3 Citizens of the Year for the future years. Just investigate that as a possibility. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I won't accept that amendment. It's disappointing to see Councillor Stamoulis making criticisms of what is an overtly and uncontroversial positive motion acknowledging the Citizen of the Year. I do believe it would diminish the role and the title for it to be divided in three. This is not a proxy debate for de-amalgamation. This is recognition of a great Inner West citizen, so I don't accept the amendment. There's no seconder for that. That will lapse. You wish to second it, Councillor De Cruz? Do you wish to speak to it? No? You'll refrain? Okay, I'll put that amendment. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That's 2 in favour. All those against? That's 13 against. That has been defeated. Any further positive discussion of the Citizen of the Year? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. The next mayoral minute is in regards to Leichhardt Oval having been saved. On June 14, now to be known as Leichhardt Oval Day, the federal and New South Wales governments announced that they would join in a funding partnership with us, as proposed by us, to save Leichhardt Oval and implement the Leichhardt Oval Master Plan. In addition to the $10 million committed by the Inner West Council to the implementation of the plan, the federal government has now committed $20 million and the New South Wales government $10 million, making a total of $40 million investment in the ground. The council has allocated $1 million in the budget to be adopted tonight to undertake the design of the renovation, and it's important that this work now proceed. So I move that council writes to the Prime Minister thanking the federal government for the $20 million funding contribution. We similarly write to the New South Wales Premier, and I might add the Sports Minister, if I could just ask the minute takers to include that as well, thanking the New South Wales government for their $10 million funding contribution. That council establish a design panel of relevant stakeholders to provide advice on the development of the design of the renovation of Leichhardt Oval. The CEO of West Tigers and the CEO of Sydney FC are to be invited to join the panel, and that council immediately begin engagement with stakeholders on the first stage of the renovation that will see Leichhardt Oval become a hub for women's sport and a facility fit for elite sporting teams. So I'll move that way. I'm sort of proud of myself for not needing an extension of time to talk about that one, showing a level of self-restraint I didn't know I had. Is there anyone who wishes to amend the motion or to oppose it? No, Councillor Scott, yes?
I would just like to speak briefly in favour of the mayoral minute, and thank you so much for bringing this forward and for your personal advocacy for this project over much more than a decade. It really speaks to your persistence that we were able to achieve this. And I just want to take a minute to reflect on the announcement when we made it at Leichhardt Oval on the 14th of June. What an absolutely positively enthusiastic event we had that day. How many people were there? It was, I have variously described this to people as a hoopla, a circus. It was so many people were there to talk about how much they cared about Leichhardt Oval. The Prime Minister, 2 state ministers, including the member for Summerhill representing the Premier, and the Sports Minister was there, the Mayor, 2 councillors, the men's West Tigers team, the women's West Tigers team, the women's Sydney FC team, Football Australia, Rampaging Roy Slavin, the Saving Leichhardt Oval group led by a teenager. Every person who cares about Leichhardt Oval and the future of sports in Leichhardt and Lilyfield at that oval was there to say that they back this and they're grateful. I have never seen so much enthusiasm for a community announcement as I have on that day, and it is just a testament to the grassroots support that this suburban oval has, that we were able to bring so many people there to celebrate it. It was a wonderful day, and I do hope 14 June is now known as Leichhardt Oval Day.
Thanks very much, Councillor Scott. Councillor Stamoulis?
Yeah, I have 2 questions, but will I be getting a running commentary from you before I ask? Are you going to come in on every question?
I don't believe you've posed one to me so far.
Right, okay. Well, I haven't posed anything to you, but you're opening up your mouth all the time. My first one is to the relevant officer. Do we have the funding, or where will the funding go, the $20 million and the $10 million from federal and from state? Will that come to council, or is that separate to council finances?
I'll put that question to the officers.
So we're working through how that will come through to council, but it will be a council-run project, so that will be brought to council.
Okay. Did you want to add anything, Mr Mayor, before I ask my second question?
Now, come on. I know you're not in a good mood.
Come on,
get on with
just-
your second question.
Just keep quiet, will you?
Councillor Stamoulis.
Point of order. Point of order. Could Councillor Stamoulis please cease interjecting and speaking so rudely to the Mayor?
Councillor Stamoulis, with great respect, I don't think when I'm conducting the meeting perfectly...
You comment on everything.
Councillor Stamoulis, with great respect, I'll ask you to
simply
desist.
saying, stop it for the evening.
Sorry, Councillor Stamoulis, with great respect...
You're supposed to be a chair, right?
Councillor Stamoulis, I'm trying to chair the meeting and you're currently not in keeping with the code of meeting practice. You've interjected several times and asked me to be quiet, despite the fact that I hadn't interrupted you. With great respect, I'll ask you to keep it positive and lift the tone a bit. Please proceed.
Okay, the second thing is that at the last meeting, we asked whether or not the West Tigers would be using this oval in the future. We're inviting them now to be a key stakeholder in discussions. Do we know, or do we have any further information about whether they'll be using this facility going forward?
I have information about that, but I know it displeases you when I speak. So did you want me to address the question, or are you posing it to the officers?
Look, Mr Mayor, if you've got the answer, please do so.
Thank you very much for that. As was articulated by the Chair of West Tigers, Barry O'Farrell, and the CEO of West Tigers, Shane Richardson, at the announcement, in addition to thanking the Council for their long-term advocacy on the issue and thanking the New South Wales Government and the Federal Government, they said that this ensured that their presence at Leichhardt Oval would be permanent and long-term, and their announcement about the number of games that would be played there next year is pending. There's been various reports about that, but there's 5 games there this year, so that's what we're advocating for. And they've also made public statements about the fact that a lot more women's rugby league will be able to be played there through the West Tigers.
Thank you.
Did you wish to speak to the substantive motion or just angry questions? All right, any further, is there anyone who wishes to amend the motion or to oppose it? Councillor Atkins.
I just have a question, Mayor.
Yes, please do.
I'm just curious about who would be the relevant stakeholders on the design panel. I'm assuming that's a question for you, given it's your minute, and whether that would include possibly members of the community to be involved. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. I think the point 3 of the motion is quite clear. I've spoken to both the CEO of Sydney FC and the CEO of West Tigers to ask them if they would play a role on the design panel, and they have both agreed. And I think the council officers are able, under their delegated authority, to identify who the additional stakeholders would be. But there's already been a lot of different sporting organisations and community organisations involved in developing the master plan. So I imagine it would be quite a similar list. Thanks for that. Anyone who wishes to oppose the motion or to amend it? Okay, I'll make a very brief right of reply. I'm not going to let the unfortunate tone from before drag me down on a day that I'm feeling so happy about this result.
Here you go again.
Councillor Stamoulis, I'll ask you to desist. Humour's not a bad thing. Now, since the new New South Wales government was elected, there's really been a marked change in the way that the council's needs and the community's needs are being met. In the previous 12 years, we received, as we all know, we received essentially nothing. They cut us out deliberately from grants programs in a way that's been identified as being improper by the Auditor General and by the ICAC. And we received very little because they didn't have a political interest in this area. I'm very proud that in recent months, we've been able to deliver an additional $20 million for the Rozelle Parklands for the deficiencies within that park, which wasn't on the table from the previous government. It's a direct result of our advocacy. Now $30 million of state and federal funding for what everyone agrees is a magnificent asset that had to be saved. That's $50 million. I don't understand why some councillors look so angry when we have such big wins. And this is about the use that the ground will get for another 50 years to come now. And when you see the look on the faces of the girls running out for the female festival of football just a month ago, the Leichhardt juniors girls and the juniors from Balmain District Football Club, they have a whole day of football there. And when you see the look on their faces when they run out the tunnel, they honestly feel like heroes. And we're going to see a lot more of that now. This is going to be a hub for female sport. We've set a goal of 50% of all of the content being women's and girls' sport. And Sydney FC women's team have committed to playing there for the long term as well. So I think there's only things to smile about in this significant win for our community. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? That's been carried unanimously. We'll move on to the next mayoral minute, which is in regards to South by Southwest Sydney and the proposal for a satellite event for that festival to be held on Enmore Road. South by Southwest is an annual conference and festival originating in Austin, Texas, and which showcases music, film, technology and innovation. It is one of the largest festivals in the world. And in 2023, it hosted its first international spin-off event, South by Southwest Sydney, in October last year, with over 97,000 attendees and more than 1,000 events held across 8 days. South by Southwest Sydney is returning in October 2024 with an expansive lineup of local musicians and artists scheduled to perform. The council proposed to the previous New South Wales government that we be included in South by Southwest in the first year. We weren't successful in getting a response from them, but we've had ongoing discussions with the new government about how we can bring the people from across the world to see Sydney's best main street, arguably Enmore Road. The Inner West is the centre of live music and art in Sydney, with more residents employed in the arts and creative industries than anywhere else in the state. It's also home to the state's first ever special entertainment precinct on Enmore Road, and I note that we're considering establishing 6 more special entertainment precincts tonight. While the majority of the festival is going to take place in the CBD, South by Southwest Sydney has met with Inner West Council to discuss opportunities to collaborate on a satellite event on Enmore Road as part of the festival. It's mutually agreed that the focus of this event would be on showcasing local Inner West artists and the precinct to the South by Southwest Sydney audience. Given the festival is taking place in October, Council will need to confirm details with the organisers soon to ensure the viability of the event. And so I move that Council write to South by Southwest Festival organisers proposing a collaboration between the Inner West Council and South by Southwest Sydney, but I think we'd call it South by Inner West, just saying, to hold a satellite event on Enmore Road as part of the South by Southwest Sydney 2024 event. The event will focus on showcasing local artists in the Inner West, and that Council delegate authority to the General Manager, or in this case the Acting General Manager, to enter into negotiations with South by Southwest Sydney on logistical, financial and promotional support that Council could provide as part of the event, and receive a report to the August ordinary meeting detailing costs. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the motion?
I
Deputy
wish
Mayor?
to speak enthusiastically in support. Thanks, Mayor. To get an event of the scale of South by Southwest Sydney to host a satellite event on Enmore Road would be an absolute boon, not just for the greatest street in New South Wales, but also for the many Inner West artists and live musicians who will be showcased and will be able to perform to not just a national but an international audience with the kind of reach that most events in this country can only imagine. And I think it's only right that an event that showcases live music and arts like South by Southwest Sydney should have an event in the Inner West, because as you've said, Mayor, we are the beating heart of live music and the arts in this state, if not the country. And I really enthusiastically support this and look forward to seeing it take off and bringing people from around the world to see the joys of Enmore Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Is there anyone who wishes to oppose the motion or to amend it? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. The next and last mayoral minute is in regards to the Leichhardt Bowling Club. The Leichhardt Bowling Club is a 101-year-old community sporting institution. I was very excited and proud to participate in the 100th birthday celebration last year. The club's board is committed to honouring their proud history, preserving it as a community recreation space, drawing in new members to the sporting and social club, and catering to local visitors with new offerings of food and live music. Like many small community clubs, they face significant financial pressure, despite the fact that they have had quite a rejuvenation over recent years. The club has been zoned R1 general residential since the middle of the last century, though it's been used as recreational land for over 100 years. No attempt has been made to change its use to residential in the decades since it's been used for recreational purposes. As a result of the residential zoning, the Leichhardt Bowling Club pays rates approximately more than 350% higher than comparable clubs, imposing a very significant recurrent cost. Their estimate is that they currently pay $67,000 a year in rates, but if they were rezoned for recreation space, they would pay $17,000 a year. So a recurrent reduction of $50,000 a year in rates is a very significant financial boost for an organisation such as this. The Board of Directors and the membership have now asked for Council support to rectify this situation by initiating a Council-led rezoning from R1 to RE2 private recreational land. A vote of the Board was held in late May and unanimously endorsed the proposed rezoning. The Council has an opportunity to help secure the long-term future of the club by initiating the process. This will save the club money and secure the land as recreational space, and that's important. We know that we're going to have to build more housing. Every local community is, but these green community spaces are so important to protect, and rezoning this to recreational space would make that protection permanent. Leichhardt Bowling Club Life member, 78-year-old Ronnie Court, wrote a handwritten submission to Council in support of the rezoning. He reflected on his years at the club and how important it was for him as a bowler, and also praised the Board for their foresight in making changes to the club to appeal to new members. He mentioned how pleasing it is to see children and families at the club and to hear them proudly say, "I love the bowlo." And so I propose that Council commence work to rezone the Leichhardt Bowling Club from R1 general residential to RE2 private recreation, using the most cost-effective and expeditious Council-led method possible, and a report on this to be tabled at the August Ordinary Council meeting. So I will move that way. Councillor Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would really like to pay tribute to the Chair and members of the Board at the Leichhardt Bowling Club for their persistence in working on this proposal. They have been in talks with the Council since 2019 to try to resolve this issue. Baz and Al have been chipping away at the solution to this for quite some time, and it reflects a long-standing intention of this bowling club to preserve their future. Historical records of the club indicate that they have been working on rezoning in some form since probably the 1980s. And I'm so pleased that we're able to actually bring this to a head now. I think it's also really important for us to reflect on the fact that this bowling club is still a competitive bowling club. It is for the sport of lawn bowls. And there are members there who are engaged in sport and recreation at this club. It is not simply a place to drink a beer. It is not simply a place for a children's birthday party. It is a place that has a long and proud sporting tradition. In fact, New South Wales Bowls was formed at the Leichhardt Bowling Club. It is one of our oldest clubs. And this is something that will preserve it as a sport and recreation space for the community, owned by the community, led by the community for generations to come. And I'm so proud to lend our support to that endeavour. Congratulations to the Board and all the members.
Thanks very much, Councillor Scott. Councillor Shetty?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to throw my enthusiastic support behind this proposal as well. I'm a close neighbour of the bowlo, and it is much loved in the community around me. When I first moved to Lilyfield, my next door neighbour Norma had actually moved to her house so she could be closer to the Leichhardt bowlo because she loved it so much and spent all of her free time there. So it's just a really important part of the community. She's since passed away a couple of years ago, but had moved there in the 1990s to be close to the bowlo. So it's been loved for decades. It's been loved for a century. And it's a really big and important part of the community. I spend a lot of time there with my school community and my friends. I know that Baz and Al and the rest of the board and the staff there do a really great job. So yeah, really keen to see this go ahead so that we're protecting the future of this club. It's a really important part of the community from both a sporting perspective and just a community hub. So thank you for bringing this motion.
Thanks very much, Councillor Shetty. Councillor Griffiths.
Mayor, just a question to you or the officers, depending if you can answer it. I just want to know who owns the club. Is it public land and a publicly owned building, or is it a private entity and a private for-profit establishment? If you can just speak about that, the nature of that.
I'll put the question to the officers.
Through you, Chair, I'll have to take that question on notice.
Well, I'm able to address that question. It's a not-for-profit community club that owns its own land, which is why they're paying the rate. So if they were leasing it from us, they wouldn't be paying rates to the council. Councillor De Cruz and then Councillor Stamoulis.
Can you, through you to the relevant officer, if you can just explain the zonings, the R1 and the RE2, is that part of the RE2, is that rezoning? Yeah, if you can just explain the difference between the two.
Thank you. I'll put that question to the officers, and then I've just noticed that the general manager of the club is in attendance tonight and may not have been able to register in advance of the cut-off for the registration due to the Mayoral Minute being published after 2 o'clock. So if you'd like an opportunity to speak, Baz, I'm happy to invite you up in just a second. But I'll put Councillor De Cruz's question to the Director of Planning.
Through you, Chair, the land is currently existing zoned R1, which is general residential land, which means it attracts rates to council in that format. The proposal through the Mayoral Minute is to rezone the land to RE2, which is private recreation.
Did you need any clarification of that?
That was basically,
I think Councillor De Cruz is looking for a layperson's explanation of what the two zonings mean.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Through you, R1 general residential is the zone that allows housing, where housing is the predominant form of development. RE2 for private recreation is the zone that is most commonly applicable to clubs of this nature.
Thank you for that. Councillor Stamoulis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Question through you to the relevant officer. Do we know if this same situation affects any other bowling clubs in our municipality? We've got quite a few, so...
I'll put that question to the officers.
Through you, Chair, I'm unaware of any other similar circumstances, but to be thorough, I would have to take that question on notice.
Thank you for that.
My second question is then, would it be possible then to expand this study so that councillors are aware of how many clubs this might apply to? Thank you.
Take that as a comment. Councillor Griffiths.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and thanks for your suggestion to invite the...
Oh, hold on. Do you mind if we go to Baz Compton first?
I think that would be great. I might just... well, one of the things I would really like Baz to maybe talk about and just give an explanation is just for status as a not-for-profit entity, and how can we ensure that we're not rezoning land which could then be, for instance, sold off at a higher price. I commend the club for all it does. I've been to the club, but that's something that I'm mindful of when it's a private entity. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, just for clarity, it's not a private entity. It's a registered not-for-profit club. That's a category of enterprise that is not-for-profit. It's owned by its members, and it reduces the value of the land to rezone it to recreational space. So it doesn't make it more profitable. It makes it impossible to develop. But, Baz, did you want to come forward and let us know about the proposal?
Answer all these questions. Thank you very much. Guys, thank you very much. I don't want to keep you here all night, but I'm going to say a few words. This is probably the most important moment in our club's modern history. Very briefly, just, what are these clubs, how they work, who runs them, why are we here? 101 years ago, under the leadership of then Mayor of Leichhardt, W.A. Lampert, and Town Clerk CM Reeves, a motley crew of veterans and locals chucked in to purchase 88 Piper Street, the former Lawn Bowls Club. During the onset of the Depression, these founding members donated their shares in the land to the club itself, to the business of Leichhardt Bowling and Recreation Club Limited, with the simple wish that the greens and clubhouse be preserved for Leichhardt locals to enjoy in perpetuity. That word's on the plaque outside my door. It's the only reason why I know what that word is. This same land, a century later, is still administered on behalf of our members by a volunteer board of lawn bowlers who all live within walking distance of the club. I've got 4 of them here with me this evening. We are proudly 100% community owned and operated. But Dylan, to your point about, land value, how it works, that kind of thing, you can become a member of Leichhardt Bowlo for $10 a year. You will then own approximately over 2,500% of the land. By charter, if the company goes bust, this land, you don't have any monetary kind of say in what that value of the land is. The value of that land goes to basically the nearest bowlo we choose. So we are community owned and operated. Become a member, own part of the land, you can't do too much with it. To your specific question about the value of the land, Darcy's spot on. We are significantly impairing our land value by making it less developable. And I get into why that's super important. So from our humble beginnings, our first clubhouse, a shed with no walls, the preceding century's been a roller coaster. From our opening, our current clubhouse in the early 70s, which was so opulent it was voted Australian Club of the Year, to just a few years ago where we almost disappeared with a tired business model and a pandemic for dessert. But throughout this century, and for what we hope is centuries to come, we have been steadfast in following the direction of these founding local Leichhardt members, the Service Board of Bowls and serve the community of Leichhardt. Darcy, the background's already talked about the significant financial implications of this incorrect zoning. And if I had an hour and a schooner or 3, I could talk all night about how and why this financial reef is so critical to our community and our sport, and all the great things we've done these last couple of years. But I believe our financial position is more of a bowlo problem than a council problem. What is a council problem is what happens when these community-owned clubs disappear. Between 2010 and 2020, 52 bowlos have closed in the Greater Sydney region, and many more are in financial duress. As these clubs close, we're losing more than a sport. We're losing a third place. We're losing what makes our communities unique and vibrant. We're losing accessible, open space reserved for our community for recreation. And particularly here in the Inner West, we're at risk of losing our history. Again, if I had a schooner or 3 and another hour, I'd like to talk to you all about the important history, but super briefly. The first bowlo in the state was opened in this LGA. Annandale, funnily enough. Annandale, it's an unusual one. The first intercolonial game of bowls was held here. Sydney beat Melbourne. The first Lawn Bowls Association in the world was formed here. The first international game of bowls in the modern era was organised here in this LGA. The first Women's Bowls Association in the state was formed here. This association still exists and is one of the largest in the world, formed here in this LGA. By supporting this motion and having Leichhardt Bowlo zoned correctly for private recreation, you're ensuring that not only is the rich history of our sport in this LGA preserved, but no matter what the future holds for our club, supporting this motion means it will always remain a community asset, protected by Council's own planning controls, ensuring that this special slice of Leichhardt remains as it has been for the previous century, a place for sport, recreation and community. Thank you for your time. And any specific bowler questions, I know them all backwards, please fire away.
Okay, so Baz will be in the Crocodile Farm after the meeting tonight. Thanks very much, Baz.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any amendments to the motion or would anyone like to speak against it? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously.
Whoa!
Don't have 3 schooners in a row.
Oh, mate,
All right, thanks very much for coming along. That concludes the mayoral minutes tonight, so we'll move on to the items listed on the agenda. The first is the delivery program, Operational Plan 2024 and 2025. Councillor Drury.
Don't we need to approve the minutes of the last meeting?
We have done so, Councillor.
Sorry.
That's okay. Councillor Drury.
Councillors, it comes time to consider adopting a delivery program, our fees and charges, and our budget and our long-term financial plan. And these are matters that we've been discussing now since February, and I know our staff have been working on since last year. I would like to thank once again for their tireless work in relation to these matters, both Prue and Chris, who are great public servants and great employees of the Inner West Council. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Prue. I know that they've worked with the directors, and they know they give some directors a harder time than others, and that's right, to get us to where we are today. I'm pleased to see that we've got updated service standards and KPIs in this document, which I think is a step forward. So we've had councillor workshops, we've had briefings, we've been through these details. I know councillors have asked a number of questions of staff as we've gone through this process, and it's gone out on public exhibition. It pleases me that the public do interact with this in interesting ways, and I think the people who are frustrated about not being able to play sport for the last couple of weeks because it's wet really got in there and made a lot of comments about all-weather services in Centenary Park. May I seek someone to give me 2 minutes?
I move an extension of 2 minutes.
Seconded by Councillor D'Arienzo. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Please proceed.
So I'd just like to be really clear that this budget and the long-term financial plan shows that we are in a very strong financial position. I'm bemused when I hear otherwise. It is unequivocal, it is in the books, it is in the papers that we are in a strong financial position. Yes, we've got a small deficit this year, but we've got a long-term financial plan to get us out of that. And the deficit is a small fraction of the $293 million that we plan to spend in the new year and ongoing, as well as our capital projects. What I'm most proud of is that we're putting aside a significant amount of money to upgrade our assets. We've really put a lot of effort into putting money aside and focusing our capital program on upgrading, modernising, making more accessible our valuable assets. I'm really pleased, I'm personally very pleased that what we're doing is starting some new things like the Aboriginal Community Hub. So important, I think, for the community going forward, particularly in light of what happened with the referendum. But really what we are doing is putting money into record amounts of money into footpaths, roads, stormwater, and the key things that councils should do. And I note that we're doing this without jacking up the overall rate basis. This is a significant achievement. I commend these documents to all councillors.
Thank you for that. I'm happy to second the motion and wish to speak briefly to it. And really, just because Councillor Drury has been assiduous, I was about to say as he always is, but that would be a double entendre, been assiduous about showing respect and thanking the council officers for their work, I'd like to show Councillor Drury the same respect. I've served on this council with him for the best part of 8 years. I've known him for a long time before that. He is the person who is singularly responsible for the excellent financial position that this council is in. And there's a whole series of really important infrastructure projects that would never have happened if it weren't for the discipline and the professionalism that he brings to his role. Not everybody on this body or on any council that I've ever seen is necessarily interested in managing the money well and the infrastructure program, but it's so important. It's the most important thing we do. And Councillor Drury, as everyone knows, is finishing up on council after a very long service and dedicated service to the people of Ashfield and to the people of the Inner West. And we will miss him because regardless of what happens with the upcoming election, you need people like Mark Drury on the council to make sure that the public's money is looked after and that the community interest is served and that the big important projects actually get delivered. So, Mark, I want to say on behalf of all of your colleagues that you've served with over the years, thank you very much for your dedication and commitment.
Here.
Okay, further discussion of the budget. Councillor De Cruz.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Councillor, I'll come back to the Deputy Mayor momentarily. Councillor De Cruz.
Yeah, I've had a look. I mean, yes, ditto with Councillor Drury about all the work. It is a substantial document. I only read it online, but I understand it fills a whole volume of the agenda. But I have two amendments, and they're based on reading the submissions from the council officers and consulting with the community and consulting with the council officers. So the first amendment is actually in relation to submission 2, which is about scorecards. And what I actually think they meant was something about the KPIs, but it was actually the difficulty of finding the KPIs and actually finding out how we're performing against the KPIs. And so I would like to move the amendment that we actually produce a dashboard where we can monitor how well we're doing against our KPIs and adjust our budget to allocate more resources if a project is falling behind or need improvement, and not rely just on community up in arms, as I think it's happened with the DAs. So I'll just send Catherine this amendment, and hopefully I will get the support of councillors on this. Okay, thank you.
They're incorporated. Excellent.
Okay.
Councillor Griffiths. Sorry, the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you then.
Thank you, Chair. I also have amendments which I've provided to the minute taker. Both points of this amendment relate to later agenda items, which we will discuss, but I'll do my best to outline them now. I'll just wait for them to be displayed. Thank you. So the first point, I would move that $200,000 be allocated from the budget to an Inner West Tourism Fund to fund action items identified and developed through the Inner West Tourism Action Plan to support local economic growth and enhanced vibrancy and amenity. Councillors who have read the report at item 3 from the Inner West Brewers Forum will know that the development of an Inner West Tourism Action Plan was a key ask that came out from attendees of that forum and from members of the Inner West Brewers Association. And I think it's a wholeheartedly reasonable request that we have a coordinated and strategic approach to driving foot traffic and holding events and promoting the Inner West to everyone who doesn't live in the Inner West and even those who do. We've already heard tonight just how much we have on offer to attract people. Of course, our breweries are a key part of that. The Inner West Ale Trail is a really special and unique attraction that we have here in the Inner West, but the benefits from such an approach to tourism and visitation will obviously have flow-on effects for a whole host of other businesses across the Inner West as well. And I'm really keen to ensure that that action plan isn't just words on a page, but that we actually have some guts behind it to make sure that we can fund and implement the initiatives that come out of it. So I think 200K is a reasonable point to get us started on that. And point 2 is in relation to item 7, the ending period poverty trial, and I would just move that this successful trial be expanded to other locations in the Inner West, including the Pride Centre, St Peter's Library, Fanny Durack Aquatic Centre and Dawn Fraser Baths. Thank you.
Those have been accepted. Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. I'll go back to Councillor Griffiths.
Through you, Mayor, just to the Director of Infrastructure. is the lighting the lighting works to the skate park at Jack Shanahan Reserve. Are they in the delivery plan? There was a previous nom on the subject.
I'll put that question to the council officers.
Through you, Chair, I'll need to take that on notice.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Griffiths? No, Councillor Stamoulis?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I'd like to thank the staff also for putting this together, because it's a very solid document, and I think you're the ones that are fully responsible for the quality of the document that comes forward. Most important to me is that during this particular term of Inner West Council, this second term, I don't think since 2008 when I was first elected, I've ever seen costs increase at such a pace, and there's a lot of factors contributing to that. But this is the council that's probably delivered the biggest cost of living increase in terms of rates, fees and charges that I think I've witnessed since 2008. And I'm wondering whether or not we could have done something to moderate that a little bit. It is difficult, I understand that, but our residents, sections of our community are facing major cost pressures. This budget hasn't really addressed that very well. Similarly, last year, which was even additional increases on top of this, didn't do that very well. We may have opportunity to look at that, in a new council. It might provide us with the impetus and incentive to do that. Similarly, I'll raise another issue that I raised last term of council. If we go to page 330 of the document where we analyse that budget as a proportion of spending, we see that urban ecology and sustainability, $2 per $100 spent, urban forest $1 per 100, they're just not getting off the ground. There's no take-off on those at all. And councillors those who look at detail in this know that we're now spending less in terms of environment than what we did in 2014-15. So there's been a significant reduction there in environmental spending, and these two indicators highlight that clearly. And I think we really need to focus on getting a bit of take-off there on our sustainability and environmental programs. The other thing is that CapEx has sort of dropped. I'll ask a question if I could, Mr Chair.
When you've concluded your remarks, Councillor.
Sure, okay, then I'll conclude them now by asking two questions, if I could. One is that in relation to the question on notice that I put on these papers here tonight, we'll be taking on 7,800 new dwellings. And of course, each of those dwellings gives us a developer contribution charge and increased rates. I don't see that reflected at all in the budget. It's quite sizable, these amounts. I'm just wondering whether the question can be answered for me. Where would I find those increases over the years in our budget papers?
I'll put that question to the officers.
Through you, Chair, we'll take that question on notice.
Thank you for that. I'm taking it on notice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Your second question, Councillor?
No, that's fine then, Mr Mayor. That'll do.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, thank you. Anyone who wishes to further amend the budget or to speak against it? Councillor Griffiths?
Yeah, so I'm just going to speak substantially to it. In 2022, we resolved as a council to progress lighting works on the skate park at Jack Shanahan Reserve and do a much needed resurfacing. I've tried to locate this both in the budget and in the delivery plan. The image files, I guess, the way that it's both in the PDF version and on website, so you can't just kind of search using Control F. But I'm concerned that we pushed it back from the 23-2024 budget we agreed to after it was initially there, and now I'm a little bit concerned that it might not be in this 24-25. If it's not, I would just flag that I'll be looking to bring it forward in coming months to revisit it.
So did you want me to put that as a question to the officers? No. Okay, no problem. That's okay. Councillor Drury? Okay, sorry for that. Any further amendments to the budget? If not, I'll go to Councillor Drury for a right of reply.
Firstly, Councillor Griffith, you'll be pleased to know that 620,000 is put aside for Jack Shanahan. Reserve lighting upgrade, which I think is important, and will form an important part of the Greenway and more people going past there, and I think really enliven that area, which is terrific. So it's in the significant capital projects. It's about the 12th down on that list. And I'll just go back to a point that I raised in my initial speech. We have managed to do this without significant rate rises. Councillor Stamlos talks about cost of living pressures. We're conscious of that. We haven't gone out for SRVs. We haven't gone out for rate rises, as have almost every comparable council in this city. We have managed to look after our money, to deliver the expectations of our community, to have great services and to improve our facilities without seeking extra money. That is good financial management. That is what we do here, and that is what we should continue to do. I urge all to support the budget.
Thanks, Councillor Drury. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? That has been carried unanimously. Is
Mr.
there
Mayor?
an in globo motion, a procedural motion to bring any motion items forward?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a procedural motion to move a number of items in globo, and that's been provided to the minute takers.
Can I ask the minute takers to list those on the screen? Is there a seconder for the motion?
Sorry, can we go through just to
Yep, I'll just check that there's a seconder first. Seconded by Councillor Langford. Okay, as everyone's aware, we'll run through these. If any councillor objects to them being dealt with on block, they'll be removed. We'll ask councillors. We've got quite an impressive list here. I remember a few meetings where there was only 1 or 2 items that we were moving on block. This is quite a long list, which shows the level of cooperation that we've got. But I'll ask councillors to
And I'd
show
like
some.
to thank Councillor Atkins for her cooperation in developing this list.
Excellent. Good to see that cross-party cooperation. I'll ask councillors from those parties in particular to be disciplined about not putting things back in. Item 6,
Yeah.
Callan Park Tidal Baths.
Sorry, can I please remove that one?
That's
I
out.
promise I'm finished there.
Okay. Item 8, Local Traffic Committee. Item 9, Local Government Remuneration Tribunal. Item 11, Investment Report. Item 12, Investment Report. That's removed by Councillor Stamoulis. Item 17, Climate Change Risk Assessment, removed by Councillor De Cruz. Item 19, Update on Draft Sponsorship Policy. Item
I'm sorry
20.
I did indicate this was a possible exclusion, so I'd like that out, please.
This list's getting pretty short. Item 20, Reconciliation Plan Update. Item 23, Improving and Connecting the Cooks River Walking and Cycling Trails. Item 25, Unwins Bridge Road. Item 26, Campbell Street Pedestrian Crossing. Item 28, Westpac Marrickville. Item 29, Cleaning Up Our Laneways. Item 30, Ashfield Public School. Item 31, Sydney Gay and Lesbian Choir. Item 32, Safer Walking Around Mackie Park to Tempe Station. Item 33, Leichhardt Hotel Sites, Balmain Road and Norton Street. Item 39, Mood Tea Procurement. Item 41, Mackie Park Sporting Ground Upgrade Construction Tender. And item 42, Tempe Reserve Alexandria Canal Amenities. Oh, well, that's still pretty good. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? I'll declare that carried. It's 8:30. Do we want to have a brief adjournment now? Shall we adjourn for 10 minutes? We'll only be adjourning for 5 minutes just so they can get a cup of tea. We move quicker after that if we have a short break. You're welcome to watch it at home on TV as well. Okay, so I'll move an adjournment of 10 minutes, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. We'll be back here at 47.
Mr. Mayor?
We are up to item 2. And we're 2.5 hours in. Please proceed.
Mr. Mayor, if I can please move the motion with a slight amendment.
Please do.
Thank you. I wanted to start by thanking the staff for preparing this fantastic planning proposal. I'm absolutely thrilled that we're expanding our live music and performance footprint within our LGA. Like you've said earlier tonight, we know that the Inner West is the beating heart of Sydney's live music scene, and we want to spread the success of what we've done in Enmore throughout the Inner West. I know Enmore has been crowned the coolest street in the LGA, but, well, I don't accept that, and I think that a little bit of healthy competition doesn't go astray. So this proposal is about fostering our vibrant culture and supporting our creative arts community. We have the largest creative arts community in New South Wales, as well as some of the best entertainment venues, bars, breweries, restaurants and pubs in Sydney. We've already endorsed a series of measures in this place to support our creative community, from White Bay Power Station as a performance venue to opening our town halls for no charge. We've got a shared vision for a rich and vibrant community. These 6 new precincts are designed to create safe, lively and sustainable entertainment environments while taking a balanced approach to entertainment sound compliance that considers the needs of businesses and residents. The recent early community engagement demonstrated a high level of support for the new precincts, with 5 out of 6 areas receiving overwhelming support of at least 70% in support. And it's worth noting that support in Dulwich Hill and Marrickville received 80% and 90% support, respectively, well over a high distinction. Key incentives in these proposals include an additional hour of trade, outdoor dining, which is permitted until 11 p.m, improved management of noise complaints, and a requirement for new developments, including residential developments, to be soundproofed. My slight amendment here is in line with one of the considerations raised at the local planning panel, that council work on an expression of interest process for other interested venues that are appropriately located to be included as a special
Move an
entertainment
extension
precinct.
of time of 1 minute, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All those in favour, against, declare that carried.
So let's use this as an opportunity to support our local creatives, to support our local businesses, and to support our local thriving and vibrant community.
Chair, I'll second this.
Yes.
And all I'll say is bring on the competition.
That's really it? Nice. Very succinct. Healthy competition. That's good. Okay, is there anyone who wishes to oppose the motion or to amend it? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried.
Mayor,
I would like to move item 3.
Yes, as Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, with amendments that have been provided. Firstly, thank you to yourself, Mayor, for initially moving that council should convene the Inner West Brewers Forum in response to some of the significant challenges that we know the sector is facing. Also, thank you to the Inner West Brewers Association for co-hosting the forum with us, and to Richard and the team at Young Henry's for hosting us at their premises in Newtown. This was a really important event to hold. We brought more than a dozen representatives from breweries and distilleries across the Inner West to come together to speak to some of the challenges that their sector is facing and what role council can play in supporting them. As we all know, the Inner West is home to more craft breweries than anywhere else in the country. It's why we proudly carry the mantle of the craft beer capital of Australia. And it's a key sector to not just our local economy, but also to our cultural life, and I think the vibe and identity that we carry as the Inner West and as Inner Westies. And it has also a flow-on effect of supporting live music. Plenty of our breweries host live music events every weekend or very regularly. They're fantastic places to go to enjoy that alongside the fantastic hospitality and the craft beer. And as a council, it's absolutely something that we need to be supporting. But we know from the forum that there are significant challenges that the sector is facing, particularly around visitation, particularly around cost of living. And we know that in a cost of living crisis, as people have less disposable income to spend, they're less likely to go and choose a slightly pricier craft beer and more likely to go and find whatever six-pack is on special at Dan Murphy's. And so, as many people are doing it tough at this time, our local breweries are no exception. So this forum was the first step in a process to coming together and discussing what we can do and what concrete actions we can take. And out of that, we've got a really strong plan to get us started. So the amendments that I've moved, as I flagged earlier, that council, sorry, I just request an extra minute.
Move an extension of time of 1 minute, seconded by Councillor D'Arienzo. All those in favour, against, declare that carried.
Thank you. Commence development of an Inner West Tourism Action Plan to help guide and support local economic growth, enhanced vibrancy and amenity, with a draft of that plan to be presented to council by the end of the year. That this plan should be developed through engagement with local residents, business chambers and industry associations, which would include the Inner West Brewers Association as well as the Inner West Creative Network. That the plan include a specific focus on the Inner West Ale Trail, both the existing and the proposed or just endorsed special entertainment precincts that we're looking to develop. Opportunities to identify breweries as standalone venues under the SEPs as well, which is another specific ask that they had, as well as opportunities to support live music and cultural events as well. And as I spoke to earlier, as part of the plan, that $200,000 be allocated to the Inner West Tourism Fund to ensure that we can actually get some real action and implementation through that plan, and also that we receive a bi-monthly report on progress, because there were a lot of actions outlined in that report which were really, really good. And I think time is of the essence here, and I want to make sure that we're taking real action on them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Scott? Councillor Howard?
I waive my right to speak.
Okay, thank you. You'll second the motion? Is there anyone who wishes to oppose the motion or to amend it? Councillor De Cruz?
Just saving up, please.
Okay, thank you for that. There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried, with Councillor De Cruz against. That has been carried.
Mayor?
Oh, okay. Councillor Stamoulis. I'll note that Councillor Stamoulis abstained, I think.
No, exactly.
But you walked out and then walked back in. Okay. It's always good as a public representative to just make your view transparent and clear on the record rather than walking out of the room.
Mayor?
I call the meeting to order. Okay.
This running commentary that John speaks of is obviously still going on, so thank you for continuing to have a commentary about everything that.
Point of order, Councillor Shetty is interjecting. And
How many times do you go out of the room, Mr. Mayor, during a meeting? And for how long?
Councillor Stamoulis, I just asked
No, well, you started it. You. Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, you head out of the meeting for at least half an hour to 40 minutes every meeting.
Yeah, but I have to chair 5-hour meetings. You've never tried it.
To do Facebook and Twitter.
Oh, come on, John. Seriously. You're getting out of line. I don't want to use the code of meeting practice, but you're being quite aggressive and rude. Please stop. Okay.
Mayor,
we'll move on
me.
to item 4, live
Mayor.
entertainment at White Bay Power Station, which I will move happily.
Sorry, I've been trying to get your attention for a few minutes.
Right.
I wanted to table an urgency motion.
You'll be able to do so when we've concluded the business of the meeting.
Isn't that, I think, I don't know, through governance, but my understanding, the information I was given was that I could table it at any time.
Okay, I'll just go to the council officers for advice about that.
An urgency motion is treated by a procedural motion, and as such, it can be asked to be accepted and put on the table at any point of the meeting, but it isn't considered, and if accepted, it isn't considered until the end of the meeting.
So we could consider now whether it should be treated urgently, but we couldn't consider the substantive motion until the conclusion of the rest of the business.
Correct, unless council moves a procedural motion to change the order of business.
Okay. Councillor Langford?
Thank you, Mayor.
Do you want to let us know what the motion is and why you believe that it's urgent?
Yes, thank you. The motion is called Urgent Safety Upgrades to Tempe Station, And the reason that I believe it's urgent is because the T3 line is about to shut down in August, I believe, and that means a lot more people will be using Tempe Station. At the moment, I'm responding to community feedback. We heard 2 speakers earlier. There's a petition with over 1,800 signatures and a letter that was included in the motion that I sent around today. Basically, there are safety concerns and members of the community are very concerned that those be addressed as soon as possible. It's great that we have item 32, safer walking around Mackie Park to Tempe Station, but this motion is different because it talks about Tempe Station itself.
Can I ask the minute takers to display the motion on the screen, please? No, I'd like to see the substantive motion, otherwise it's impossible to determine whether it's urgent. Sorry, Councillor Langford, to interrupt. I just want to make sure everyone could see it while you're speaking to it. Please proceed.
Thank you. So, yeah, basically, we're not meeting again until August, and I feel that it's really important that we listen to what the community is asking for now. And this motion is really just seeking for council to approach Transport for New South Wales to request and discuss particular upgrades to make the area safer. We're in the middle of winter and it's very dark in this area, and we've heard stories tonight from some of the speakers about incidents that have occurred around that area. So I think it's part of our due diligence to really try and respond to the issues that have been raised by community as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I will accept as chair that the matter be dealt with urgently. I'm happy to second that. Councillor Howard?
Yeah, I just have a point of order, just noting that I have a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in this matter, as I work for the Office of the Minister for Transport. It's really out of an abundance of caution that I would leave the room because it's not significant or pecuniary. However, I do some work around trains and have had some engagement around this particular issue, so I will recuse myself from discussion and voting when we get to the discussion.
I think you need to recuse yourself now because we have to vote on whether to accept that it's urgent. Okay, thank you for that. There being no further debate, I will move the Langford-Byrne motion that this matter be dealt with urgently at the conclusion of the meeting. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously.
Property at 203 Northumberland Street, Liverpool, was circulated to councillors today, and that we consider it in the at the end of the confidential session.
Okay, that's moved by Councillor Drury. I think the reason for its urgency is clear. Is there a seconder for that matter to be dealt with urgently? Seconded by Councillor
Can we get that
Stevens.
on the screen? Because I haven't seen it. No. Can we get some form circulated? Where was it circulated?
Circulated by the council officers.
Thank you. I was looking for something from you. Yep, thanks.
Okay, now I'm going to go back a step because I don't want there to be any confusion. I'm going to ask the council officers to outline what they have proposed and why it needs to be dealt with urgently. The substantive motion can't be displayed on the screen because it needs to be dealt with in committee of the whole. I'll put that question to the council officers.
The matter needs to be dealt with urgently due to the commerciality and the opportunity that is presented to council, and the fact that if we wait until the August meeting, we may lose the opportunity.
Councillor Shetty, I've just asked the officers to address the question that you've raised. Okay, well, we'll just wait a moment. Can I ask the officers to confirm when the copy of the motion was circulated to councillors, please?
(2:27 p.m)
Okay. Now I'll ask councillors to desist from talking while the acting director explains why the matter has been tabled in this way. That's okay.
So the matter has been tabled as urgent due to the opportunity that is presented to council. It is a commercial opportunity. It has presented itself quite quickly, but if we were to wait to August, we risk the opportunity being lost.
Thank you for that. Did you have any further questions, Councillor Shetty? Okay. I don't want there to be any confusion about this, not something that the councillors have instigated, it's the officers. So I'm going to propose, Councillor Drury, that we ask the officers to identify for Councillor Shetty and any other councillor who hasn't seen the motion to be able to look at it, and we not vote on the urgency of that motion until councillors have been able to see it. So we can come back to it after the next item. You happy with that? So we've now still got, have we passed the original Langford Burn motion? Yes. And then you've jumped up and said we've got another urgency motion. So we're going to go back to item 4, live entertainment at White Bay Power Station.
Mr Mayor, I'm happy to second that motion.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Scott. I'll refrain from speaking. Do you wish to speak to it?
I do not. I also will waive my right.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there anyone who wishes to oppose the motion or to amend it? No? I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Councillor Shetty, let me know when you've seen.
I'm good. I've found it. Sorry, it was the replies by other councillors that had buried it in my inbox.
It is confusing.
Thanks.
So you right to deal with that now, or would you like some time to read it? Okay. So Councillor Drury has already.
Councillors, if you're speaking, could you please ensure that your microphone is switched on?
Sorry, I've just realised that I cannot move this because I have a conflict of interest and will need to excuse myself.
Okay, well, you won't be moving that motion then, and it hasn't currently been tabled, so I'll ask the officers to liaise with other councillors who might be able to move the same procedural motion.
Councillor Howard would be willing to move the procedural motion.
At this time?
Sure, yes.
Do you wish to speak to it?
No.
Does everyone understand what we're voting on? Whether this matter would be dealt with urgently at this meeting? That's moved by Councillor Howard. Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor De Cruz. I'll accept that it is urgent. We now need to vote on whether it be dealt with urgently. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. We'll move on to post-exhibition of Heritage Pubs planning proposal. Now, I want to speak to this briefly and to move an amendment. Firstly, I want to thank the council officers for the detailed work that's been involved in this project. The reason that this was instigated 7 years ago, 8 years ago, was, well, the catalyst for it was that the Town Hall Hotel in Balmain, very famous pub, was purchased and was converted by the new owner into a place called Massage Envy. And in addition to that, there was an Orange Theory gym, I think maybe on the ground floor. It's currently now sitting largely vacant. In addition to that, the William Wallace Hotel, for example, was sold a few years ago and has had serious damage inflicted to the heritage value of that through a renovation that was commenced but not completed. And there were other examples across the inner west of long-standing pubs that people were purchasing for a development opportunity, essentially. And so we started an investigation about how we could, in addition to heritage conservation zones, which, as has been identified, protect the facade, how we could actually protect the bar to ensure that it wasn't easy to just pick off a pub that's been a cultural institution for a century or more and decide that you want to convert it to flats or something else. It's been a very long process. I'm very glad to see it coming to the conclusion. I would consider it a significant achievement for the council and a protection of community values and heritage to get this done. But in listening to the contributions that have been made from various speakers tonight, I think it is also clear that where there is not an original interior or bar, that it makes sense that there is not an additional heritage protection that can be put in place on something that is not in itself a heritage item. And I think the points that have been made, and I might need an extension of time here, but that's good timing. You learn a thing or two in the chair, John. Extension of time moved by Councillor D'Arienzo, seconded by Councillor Stevens. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. I think the legitimate concern of hoteliers and hotels that they don't want to see the costs of basic maintenance and repairs and upgrades going up because of an increased bureaucratic process. That's a fair enough consideration. And so I want to propose that Council adopt, in addition to points 1 and 2, so that we do authorise the General Manager to finalise the planning proposal, that Council not include the Millstone Hotel in Leichhardt, the Bridge Hotel in Rozelle, Kelly's on King Hotel in Newtown, that those items all be deleted from the plan. In addition to that, I want to propose that council officers set up a roundtable to meet with interested pub proprietors to review the heritage inventories for the pubs to ensure that they are appropriate representation of each premise. I'll provide that wording to the minute takers. And essentially there, what I'm trying to achieve is that the heritage inventory lists all the different parts of the property. For example, the car park should not be listed on the heritage inventory. You might want to do an upgrade to a car park and you shouldn't be encumbered by heritage there. So that's come about through consultation with the Hotels Association, who met with council on behalf of the some of the pubs in attendance here tonight. So I will table that amendment to the minute takers. Sorry, I should have given it to you earlier. And I will move the resolution. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor D'Arienzo, do you wish to speak to it? Councillor D'Arienzo will refrain from speaking. Is there anyone who wishes to oppose the motion or to amend it? Councillor Scott?
Mr. Mayor, may I please add to the list of venues that are struck off the list, the North Annandale Hotel?
I'm happy to accept that amendment.
Thank you.
That's incorporated. I'll just ask the minute takers to display that when they've had a chance to jot it down. Councillor Shetty.
I just had a question, I think through you, Chair, to the officers. Given the somewhat piecemeal approach we've had, just trying to remove the ones that we think might be affected for their interiors, are we comfortable that there's no more heritage pubs on this list where the interiors of the properties aren't similarly impacted and are genuinely heritage items?
I'll put that question to the officers.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have had specialist heritage consultants review each of the pubs, and their position remains on the remaining heritage pubs that we are proposing as officers.
Okay. I guess I'm just flagging my concern about us moving to approve the internal element of this for pubs that are still on that list, given that there is some discrepancy between what the consultants have come back with and what we are hearing anecdotally from the publicans. So I don't know if it would be appropriate to potentially either defer this item for a little bit more consultation or remove the internal element completely to ensure that we're not accidentally causing more problems for some of these pubs where they might be in a similar position to those like the Bridge Hotel and Kelly's, where they just haven't been verbose enough to make us realise that they have the same issues.
Well, Councillor Shetty, I'm happy to consider any amendment you'd like to write and submit to the minute takers. Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak against the motion or to amend it? Councillor Stamoulis?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd certainly welcome a deferral to seek input again from those hotel owners. I think we've seen a couple of things come out tonight in this debate. Number one is that there's been last-minute contact from a couple of hotel owners seeking council to address this, which you have, Mr. Mayor. So that's good. We've even added at the last minute one or two other ones there where the owners haven't come in. So that's alerting me to the fact that maybe we need to just do one final review of this. I think a deferral would be in order on the basis of the discussion we've seen tonight. And the other thing is that we heard from the manager of the Bridge Hotel tonight about the aspects of the internal heritage of that. The Bridge is well known for its as an entertainment venue. That's its history and that's its purpose there, sitting on Victoria Road, and you wouldn't want to stop or affect that. And certainly we've got other pubs in the municipality that have that same same function. Others, of course, like the London in Balmain, that's real heritage. And the bars there, the sandstones there, and that's really strong heritage. But I think it's worth a deferral just to seek an understanding and agreement with the owners about the purposes of this Schedule 5. As given that, as I say, we've made the amendment of 2 and a further 2 while addressing the item. So I'd seek a deferral of this item. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks very much, Councillor Stamoulis. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak against the motion or to amend it?
Sorry, am I to understand that deferral's been moved, or is what's happening?
I'm not responsible for moving motions by other people.
Okay, so I think Councillor Stamoulis might be moving an amendment to ask for a deferral. I'll second it.
It won't be an amendment, it will be a foreshadowed motion. But
sure, you want to let us know what we should do?
Well, he hadn't provided any wording to the minute taker.
You also hadn't done the same in the last
No, I'd written it out and provided it to them.
I just think in light of the stuff that has been discussed.
Councillor Shetty, we've been here for 3 years. How many times in that period do you reckon I've had to say to Councillor Stamoulis, you'll have to provide some wording to the minute taker?
I'm just keen to make sure we get an opportunity to defer this so we don't make a bad decision. I'm not trying to be pedantic.
And as you're an elected representative, you can just table your motion for deferral. And
I'll second Councillor Stamoulis's amendment or foreshadows, whatever you rule. Yep.
Okay. We've got a foreshadowed motion from Councillor Stamoulis and Councillor Shetty for the matter to be deferred for consultation with owners and or managers. So that will be considered if the primary motion is defeated. Is there anyone else who wishes to amend the motion or to oppose it? Councillor Griffiths?
In light of the, well, I found the owner of the Bridge Hotel's speech quite compelling, especially when they spoke about the posters in the pub and this question of, you know, what about minor amendments to your hotel? And when I think about the bridge, well, what makes the bridge significant isn't actually its architecture in my mind. It's the fact that it's been socially a hub for live music, and putting up kind of posters in my mind kind of shows how it's still building its heritage, you know, and it's actually like a fluid process for the pub, and I think could be I guess, you know, if other places are in similar stages where they're still kind of building their heritage relevance, well, why would we want to actually keep these inside of bars, I guess, set in stone and try to have it, you know, set at a certain time period? And I'm not quite sure if that works for all these pubs. So I would like to suggest an amendment which, at this stage, my amendment is that we exclude interiors from the proposal.
Can I ask you to provide that wording to the minute taker? I'll just foreshadow that I'll certainly be seeking further clarity from you about what that means, because the entire proposal is based upon protecting the interior of pubs. So the substance of the policy doesn't exist anymore if you exclude all interiors. I'll let you think about it, and I'll pose that to you as a question once you've provided the wording to the minute taker. Councillor De Cruz?
I was actually going to ask a question to the officers through you about why interiors are specifically protected. Well, why we're seeking to protect the interiors of pubs, which are not quite, well, the ones which I looked at weren't quite outstanding enough to warrant it. I mean, the Annandale Hotel's pretty seedy.
I'm sorry, was that a speech or a question?
It was a question to the officer through you.
Can I ask you to clarify the question, please?
Question is why are we trying to protect the interiors, and are we going to achieve what our objectives in protecting the interiors?
Okay, I'll put that question to the officers.
Through you, Chair, through the use of inventory sheets, which are applicable to each of the premises, the inventory sheets outline those areas that are known with strong recommendation, and also those areas which are open to further investigation through audits or inspection. Where it is known that pubs have intact elements, then those elements are listed on the inventory sheet, seeking to protect the heritage value of those particular premises. The inventory sheets are specific and particular to each of the pubs to ensure that that they are as true as we are able to make them at the time that the heritage consultant conducts their inspection. Not in every instance was the consultant able to gain full and complete access to each of the premises, which is why opportunity to amend or correct or further audit those inventory sheets would be welcomed.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone else who would like to speak against the motion or to amend it? Yes, Councillor Lockie.
Mayor, questions. Thank you.
Yep.
But on your amendment, point 4, with the round table to review the heritage inventories for pubs, and this may go to a comment that Ms Plummer was just addressing. If we decide tonight to finalise the planning proposal, what scope is there to then review the heritage inventories and update them without having to bring that back again for another decision of council?
I'll put that question to the council officers.
The heritage sheets form an important strategic framework to support the planning proposal, but it is not necessary for them to be returned to council for a formal endorsement.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Lockie, any further questions?
Yes. Through you, Chair, to the relevant officers, I appreciate that we're removing some of the pubs that are proposed for listing because they've raised objections either tonight or at a previous time, I assume. Are we aware of any other owners or operators who also raised concerns and asked to be removed in whole or part from this proposal? And if so, which ones they were?
I'll put that question to the council officers.
Through you, Chair, the engagement report, which is attached to the planning proposal, lists that there were 9 pubs that had provided written submissions. If I could just have a moment, I can turn to that.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? I'll come back to that. Any further discussion, any further amendment to the motion, or anyone who wishes to speak against the motion? Councillor Griffiths. Now, your amendment, I thought you'd withdrawn it. That's still tabled, is it?
I just wanted to ask the officers about how many properties would be excluded should that amendment.
It's very substantially similar to the question that Councillor Lockie's just asked, and the officers are looking through the papers. Did you wish to speak to your amendment? Not quite sure what to do here. You could take the question on notice.
Through you, Chair, I'd be quite happy to do so.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, those 2 questions are taken on notice. Councillor Griffiths, are you moving your amendment? No, that's withdrawn. Is that right?
I'll withdraw it.
That's withdrawn. Okay. So, is there anyone else who wishes to speak against the motion or to amend it?
Chair, I might just add then, I do fully support the intent of this motion and have, I think, the whole way throughout this process. The only reason I'll be voting against it tonight is just because we have some outstanding questions on it and some significant concerns that were raised tonight by a couple of the business owners that may or may not be shared by other pub owners. I want to support this at some point, but I would like to see us defer this for further consultation, even if that's just one council cycle.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further discussion? If not, I'll make a brief right of reply. Now, I am a bit concerned that some of the debate tonight has indicated that councillors may not have read the report in its entirety. It is very difficult with strategic planning because our role, none of us, I don't believe, are planning experts. And so we have to read these very complicated reports that are very detailed, get right across the issue, and then make up our own minds. And so the complaint was raised by some of the speakers tonight that it can't be right that the consultant who came up with a list was right about 100% of them. And so some councillors have looked at it, read the report and gone, yeah, I actually don't see the heritage value in that premise or in that venue. I am strongly against the idea that every single property owner, developer or hotelier who says that they don't want their pub heritage listed should be kowtowed to. And that seems to be where the direction of the debate is going, rather than councillors picking out particular venues that they don't think have heritage value and taking them off the list. A holus bolus argument that any hotelier or developer who says, no, I don't want heritage listing of my pub, that should be agreed to. That's completely wrong.
Nobody suggested that, Mayor.
That's completely wrong. I'll ask you to desist from interjecting. So I don't agree with that principle. There's been a lot of work that's gone into this. I personally have put years of time and effort into getting across this issue. We've all voted on it multiple times. It's been reported to council at least 3 or 4 occasions throughout this term. And a motion for deferral is a motion to say, in this term of council, we won't do it.
That is nonsense. We want more information.
Councillor Shetty, please desist from interjecting.
But you're trying to put words in our mouth and it's incredibly
Councillor
frustrating.
Shetty, I'm not referring to you. I'll ask you to desist from interjecting. You are in breach of the Code of Meeting Practice. I'll suspend the time on my remarks. This is a repeated tactic that you have used.
It's not a repeated tactic.
Councillor Shetty,
we're asking for more information.
Councillor
If you've been
Shetty,
working on it for 8 years, why can't you give us another 2 months so that
Councillor
we
Shetty,
understand the
Councillor
implications?
Shetty, I will warn you a second time. Please desist from interjecting. I'll remind you that councillors, including myself, are allowed to make political arguments on an item without being interjected upon by you because you disagree with their opinion. Okay. This is a very positive thing for the council. The community broadly will agree that having looked at it closely...
I'd like to move a point of order, Mayor. It's 1511D that I think that the councillors' comments, the chair's comments, are suggesting hidden motivations that are not correct.
I don't agree that that has been a breach that I have made, and I'll ask you to desist from interjecting. I know that you've been warned twice in the course of the debate. I've made no reference to you, Councillor Shetty. If I could continue with my remarks without you interjecting for a 4th or 5th time, it would be greatly appreciated. Can you let me know when you've finished? No more interjections? And now, okay. This is overwhelmingly a positive thing that the community will welcome, and a deferral tonight, pushing the matter off at least until August, but possibly beyond that for consultation to be undertaken, as a matter of fact, will result in this term of council not adopting these protections. So I don't agree to that. It may be that some councillors don't believe it's perfect, but I'd much rather get something that's in the public interest done than wait another few years to try and make sure that it satisfies everyone's idea of perfection. So I will move that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. In support, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those against? Against, I have... Now, where's Councillor Griffiths gone? Okay, so it's hard to keep up sometimes with who's walking in and out of the chamber when the vote's on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That has been carried 7 votes to 6. Can someone let Councillor Griffiths know he can come back in? Okay, we'll move on to... And what an excellent result. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is Callan Park Tidal Baths. And I would like to move the officer's recommendation with an amendment. And I'll seek leave. I know I've already talked too much, but this is quite an important item. Also in the category of things that we've been planning and working on for a long period of time. So I'd just like to take a few minutes to outline how we got up to this point. There has been deep engagement and consultation between the council and the local rowing clubs. And I want to say at the outset how much respect I have for Leichhardt Rowing Club as a community institution. And I have personally met with the executive there on a number of occasions to discuss this item and other support for the club. As we have been working through the location of the swim site, we've had to deal with a number of factors. The sediment quality, the water depth, the tides. We had to do, 3 years worth of water quality and sediment testing just to get to the starting line. And this is the location that we landed upon after very deep ongoing consultation over several years. And then since this location was identified, during ongoing consultation with the sailing club and with the rowing club, they've identified that it's not just their allocated space for the rowing course, but there's additional space that's needed outside of that in order to function for regattas and training and so on. And so we've continued to both move the location of the swim site and to reduce the size of the swim site. So at this point, as officers can attest to, it's now 14 metres outside of the rowing corridor. I think we should continue to work with the rowing community and the sailing community, and I'd like to propose that we include them on a design panel for the swim site as it progresses. But I would request, with great respect, that those parties also meet us halfway and recognise that everybody owns this waterway. It's not a privatised waterway, and there will be members of the public who don't row but who will love the swim site. So we're trying to get the balance right. So I'd like to propose the officer's recommendation with the amendment, which I'll provide to in just a moment to the minute takers, but it's so quick to write, I hope Councillor Shetty won't get me in trouble, that we invite Rowing New South Wales and Leichhardt Rowing Club to participate in a design panel for the swim site. And I'll just jot that down and provide it to the minute takers. Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Scott, do you wish to speak to it?
Just to say to the officers and to yourself to thank you for the work that you've been doing persistently since at least 2017 on getting this swim site up and running. And also to note that once we have a design that we can implement, there is also state government money that has been pledged to this project, $2 million by the Minister for the Environment towards making this a reality. And I personally cannot wait for a swim in the river off Callan Park.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the motion or to amend it?
Could I ask a question, please?
Oh, yes, you can. Please proceed.
Through you to the officers, I'm just a bit concerned about some of the accessibility issues that were raised. Obviously not of the design itself, but of actually getting access to the swim space. And the report does talk, I know, about a new accessible footpath connecting Waterfront Drive to the swim site, but there did seem to be a concern by some of the speakers. So I'd just like to know whether our access committee working group, I can't remember which it's called, has been involved in any of this, and if not, then I might want to propose an amendment to ask that they be consulted.
I'll put that question to the officers.
Through you, Chair, I understand that it has been to the Access Committee.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there anyone who wishes to amend the motion or to oppose it?
Sorry,
Councillor Shetty?
can I have a follow-up question, please?
Yes, of course. Sorry, Councillor Atkins.
What was the view of the Access Committee?
I'll put that question to the council officers.
Through you, Chair, I'll need to take that on notice.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Stamoulis?
A couple of amendments, Mr. Mayor, if they just wait for those to go on the screen.
Thank you for providing them to the minute takers. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment, Mr. Mayor. Two amendments there, Mr. Mayor. The first is that Council should note that it's still not resolved the conflict in use by the new pool and the long-standing rowing activity that's occurred. I think we need to note that before moving forward. It seems to me that there's general concern still within the rowing community that there's a possibility for either impeding their access and usual sports arrangement that they've had for many decades, and maybe even presenting some risk or hazard, and we need to note that. The second amendment is that councillors need to be supplied with their reports on the contaminants and contamination of this site. I think that's very important that we do receive those. We're told that they're within the standard, within the standards of contamination, but I'd like to know what they are in respect of, you know, if I went to a beach or a normal pool, what sort of contamination levels I would see. I would have liked to have had a third amendment that I'd like to have a safety assessment, a swimming safety assessment of this site undertaken. It's not just your traditional.
Sorry, Councillor Summers, just a moment. You've got two amendments tabled there. So technically, your first amendment needs to be dealt with and voted on before we move on to anything else.
Let's do that. Yeah.
I'm happy to incorporate not the precise wording that you've proposed in your second amendment, because we're all entitled to all of the data and information about environmental health and protection that the council is in possession of. That's your entitlement as a councillor. So if there's something that you don't believe you have been provided with, you should be. I don't agree that the site is contaminated, so I wouldn't agree to that formulation of words, but I'm certainly happy to incorporate any amendment that you want to propose that councillors be provided with all available information about the site and the project. And then I'll just speak briefly, so I could come back to you about that wording if you would like, if that would be inoffensive.
Yeah, sure.
And in regards to the First Amendment, I'm going to speak against that. I think I've addressed this issue substantively, including the Rowing Club and Rowing New South Wales, and the design panel is a positive, proactive way to address ongoing concerns that should be addressed. I know Councillor, oh, sorry, I won't say that. We want this project to proceed. I hope that everybody here does, because we voted for it unanimously a number of times and it will have very large public benefit. But I don't agree to an amendment which indicates that there are irresolvable issues between the project and the other users of the space. So is there a seconder for the First Amendment, the first stimulus amendment, seconded by Councillor Shetty? Do you wish to speak to it?
Look, just briefly to say that I think it is clear that there are still concerns. I've been really consistent in raising my concerns about the design of this swim site and potential conflict with the rowers at every possible opportunity, at the Major Capital Works subcommittee meetings, every time that we've discussed it and every time it has come up at the council. I'm supportive of the concept of having a swim site at Callan Park in that vicinity, but I'm very concerned, and I think it's frustrating to hear that the Leichhardt Rowing Club are coming to us again to say that they still don't think that it's been resolved. We have to acknowledge that it's not just the course. They need to row to the course and they need to muster, which I think is the right word, but I'm not a rower, so I hope I got that right, Leichhardt Rowing Club. Look, there's very real safety concerns, and I think when you're considering the fact that there's going to be people rowing pointy boats backwards in the dawn light towards a swim site, I think it's very reasonable that they're concerned about the safety of both the rowers and the swimmers at that site. And I personally would like to see that resolved before we vote to accept this concept design. I think it is really important that we get this right. I'm not convinced that the council has got this quite right yet, given the concerns that have been raised by the Rowing Club. There's also been very valid concerns raised about accessibility, about the lack of the ability to provide amenity, and I think we need to think through some of those concerns, noting that the final outcome of this is largely with the Greater Sydney Parklands as the landowner, and that council will need to work very closely with them. And I'm grateful that we have the plan of management happening at Callan Park, so that through the Greater Sydney Parklands, so that they're able to look holistically at the whole site, including the swim site. Can I just ask for an extension of time of 1 minute, please?
There's an extension of time of 1 minute, seconded by Councillor Langford. All those in favour, against, declare that carried.
Thank you. Look, so I just think we need to be really clear here that we can support the ability for people to swim in this area, but that there are very valid concerns being raised by both the rowers and the swimming club, and I think it would be irresponsible of us as a council to just push it through because we want to see it done without resolving these issues in the first instance. And I think there are very important stakeholders here that are raising concerns that are resolvable but need some more work to be done before we push this through. I think ignoring them would not be the right way to do it. So I happily second this. I think we should actually be deferring it. I may still move another amendment to do so. I think there's some more work to be done here before we get to the next step.
So, look, I'm just going to raise this for example. When you say that they were being ignored, were you referring to comments that I'd made? Because the motion says that we should include the Rowing Club and Rowing New South Wales.
Look, I think
panel.
that's positive that you want to include them on the design panel, but I think that we are...
Should I move a point of order to say that I'm being misrepresented?
If you like, go for it.
I don't want to, because it's such a waste of time, but you see what I'm saying?
Sure, I see what you're saying.
You've done it throughout the term. It's not helpful.
You do it very often, so I have to pull you up.
Is there any further debate? Is there any further debate of the Stamoulis amendment? I'll ask that it be displayed on the screen. So we're voting on the Stamoulis-Shetty amendment that council noted is still not resolved, etc. Councillor Drury.
I'd like us to go back where this whole started. The idea that our waterways are a community asset that belong to us all, and that those waterways should be cleaner, should have greater biodiversity and be healthier, is the reason the Parramatta River Catchment Group commenced a campaign to clean up the Parramatta River such that more of it was so good that you could swim in it. We have spent enormous amounts of time hassling Sydney Water in terms of sewage overflows. We've worked with them in relation to stormwater issues to actually get us to a point where we have more places along the Parramatta River where you can swim. Now, when you introduce a new idea, it's different and it needs to be worked through. There are people who have done things for some time in a traditional fashion, and we need to work through that. We've got a process that has been suggested by the Mayor of working it through. In relation to the rowing, there's very precise coordinates about the area where they can use and the other area that they need to go up and down the river in order to conduct their races. I understand there is unease about a new idea, but the Parramatta River belongs to us all. It needs to be far cleaner, needs to have greater biodiversity, and the idea of people swimming there is not just about people swimming. It's about us all caring sufficiently about this river that we want to share in its ownership and its stewardship going forward.
Thank you for that. So we'll now vote on the Stamoulis-Shetty amendment. All those in favour, please raise your hands. In support, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those against, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That has been defeated. Now, Councillor Stamoulis, I'll ask the minute takers to scroll up. I've incorporated an additional point into the primary motion, which I'll ask that it be displayed on the screen now. The councillors be provided with all relevant information and data about water and sediment testing, as is required under the Local Government Act. So is that sufficient for you to withdraw your amendment, or do you insist upon it being voted on?
No, I think that's fair.
Okay, that's good. That's incorporated. Is there anyone else who wishes to oppose the Callan Park swim site or to amend the motion?
Yeah, I just had a question through you to the relevant officers, please. Just in terms of the amendment around including Rowing New South Wales and Leichhardt Rowing Club to participate on a design panel, like the way I read it is that we already have a design. So I'm trying to understand how that would work. Would they actually have any ability to meaningfully change the design? Is that what you're suggesting?
This is a concept, but a development application will be required. And so the council will need to prepare that development application, and I'm proposing that they be included on the design panel for that.
So are you saying that the DA would be different to the current
will be more detailed,
design, yes. But would it be changed? I mean, is there capacity for that design to change? Is that what you're saying?
No, the way it works is you adopt a concept plan, and then in the DA there's a much greater level of detail. So you still have to adhere to the adopted concept plan, but yes, the plan can change in some ways. And what we've heard is that those clubs would like to be included in that decision-making process to ensure that the risks that they're concerned about are mitigated.
Okay, so my understanding of what I've heard tonight is that the current design doesn't necessarily cater to the existing use of those clubs, but that's probably a comment. But I'm just trying to understand what you're proposing and how that fits in with what's being suggested.
I've answered your question to the best of my ability, and I appreciate your comment. Okay, Councillor, is there anyone else who wishes to speak against the motion or to amend it? Councillor Atkins?
Can I? Yes, please. I've just sent the minute taker an amendment. I am a bit concerned about the accessibility issues, so I would just like an amendment to ensure that staff make sure the Accessibility Advisory Committee is consulted on the design, please.
Okay, I'm happy to incorporate that. That's incorporated. Is there anyone else who wishes to oppose the swim site or to amend the motion? Councillor Stamoulis?
I have one further amendment, Mr Mayor. There's one further check that I would like of this pool and the nature of it that I'm looking at before me on page 711. This is not your traditional public baths that you'd see either at a beach or on the harbour side. This is a water fun facility, and that's great. That's great. But my amendment would be that council requests an independent swimming safety assessment of the new pool. I would like that to be done because we're incorporating a lot of different things here. There's the pontoon, there's facilities for laying down, sunbathing, there's additional elements within that, the confines of that.
If I can just try and save some time, that's a requirement of the development assessment process. I'm happy to incorporate it into the primary motion.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, we've been on this item for quite some time. There seems to be a fair bit of concern and opposition, so I'll be surprised if it goes through unanimously, but we do have a lot of other business to deal with. So is there anyone else who wishes to move a further amendment or to speak against the motion? No? I'll just make a brief right of reply. In relation to the disability access, swim sites along the Parramatta River, of which there are how many, Councillor Drury? 16? 7. Oh, okay, it was more than that. 16 we're looking at, 7 that have been delivered. They are all problematic, as is the beach, for disability access. Waterfront drive playing fields are challenging for disability access. So if we're going to adopt a new principle that says unless there is perfect accessibility, we'll close or not establish recreation facilities, there's going to be a lot of recreation facilities that are lost.
What I said.
Sorry?
I said that's not what I said, Mayor. I said nothing like that.
Councillor Atkins, with great respect, I have not referenced you in any way, and I'll just make the same statement to you that I did to Councillor Shetty. I am allowed, as is everybody else, to make a political argument about a policy issue before us without being interrupted. So if we're going to establish a very high bar for that, then this will never be a perfect site. But you could say that about any beach or any swim site along the Parramatta River, or Mort Bay, for example, where we're also investigating an additional swim site. So I hope that that doesn't become an artificial bar. And I hope that we can keep consensus around the fact that this is a really positive idea. It's a really good thing to do for the community. And I know, it's easy for political arguments to take prevalence, but I hope that everyone can actually contribute positively to bringing this about. I'll now put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? Carried unanimously. Wow. Okay. That brings us to item 10. Is that right? 7. Ending period poverty in the Inner West. Councillor Scott.
Yes, I'm trying. Sorry, I'm trying to move item 7. Thank you. I'd like to move item 7 with an amendment, which has been provided to the minute takers and they can display it. This has been an extremely successful program. I'd like to remind the Inner West councillors that we were the first council in New South Wales to undertake a trial of providing free period products in some of our public facilities, and it has gone enormously well. to the extent that I would like to add 4 sites to the next iteration of the trial, the Pride Centre at Newtown Town Hall, which I think is an easy yes, hopefully, from everyone. St Peter's Library, to address the fact that there are not many facilities in the deep south of the electorate, and Fanny Durack Aquatic Centre and Dawn Fraser Baths, which would provide us then with complete coverage at our aquatic centres. And I commend this amendment to the council.
Thank you for that, Councillor Scott. Seconded by Councillor D'Arienzo. Do you wish to speak to it? That's Councillor D'Arienzo will refrain from speaking. Is there anyone who wishes to carp about this particular positive policy? No? Can we put
I'd
that
like
one?
to speak. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Councillor
Very
Atkins.
difficult. I'd like to support it. It's very difficult to actually manage to second anything when we're online like this. I did think that I got him first there. I think this is excellent. I really support the extension of that's all I want to say.
Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. That's unanimous, is it? Excellent. That brings us to item 10, Customer Service and Development Assessments, External Review.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move the report with an amendment,
Please proceed.
which has been provided to the minute takers, and they will be able to provide it. There has been a substantial uptick in the customer service that we provide to people who are applying for DAs, whether big or small. And in line with the new LEP and substantial planning work that our staff are about to undertake before the end of the year, I commend the report and the recommendations that are in it. I thank them for having undertaken the external benchmarking and consultation that they have done. And I would like to propose that we also develop a customer service plan that specifically supports all stakeholders who might be engaging in the new LEP, which we have all voted for, to increase housing supply in our LGA. And this could be a real positive that will help us to get work done faster, smoother, and with more productive outcomes for all.
Thank you for that. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor De Cruz. Is there anyone who wishes to amend the motion? Can I ask you to turn your microphone on, please, Councillor De Cruz?
The amendment's about the fact that it's quite a detailed report, and I'm a bit confused as to whether we
Accepted.
Thank you.
Accepted. Thank you, Councillor De Cruz.
Okay, that's accepted. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the motion or to amend it? If not, I will sweat to the minute takers have incorporated that amendment into the primary motion, and I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Item 12, Investment Report, 31 May.
Mr Mayor, I'll move the investment report as is and waive my right to speak.
Moved by Councillor Scott, seconded by Councillor Drury. All those in favour? Councillor Stamoulis?
Mr Mayor, I just want to clarify with the staff. I thought that in our budget we were looking at a decreasing interest rate environment, but in the investment report we seem to have an increasing interest rate environment in the year to 2 years out. So I just wanted to ask that question, where we might stand on that. Thanks.
I'll put that question to the council officers.
Through you, Chair. The reason why we're getting an increase in the last 12 months is we have some of the older investments that mature that had a lower rate in return come off our books, and then we get the higher rate. We do still expect that the interest rate per our investment advisors that over the next 2 years will eventually drop down, but it's not dropping down as quickly as first suggested a couple of months ago.
Thank you. Makes good sense. Thank you.
There's no further discussion. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Item 13, Customer Experience Update.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move the report with an amendment as provided to the minute takers. They have it in writing.
Please do, Councillor Scott. You wish to speak to it?
Thank the staff for their diligent work on the customer service stalls and the really high engagement that they have had at transport stops and parks and shopping centres, particularly those customer service stores that are held with companion animal teams have gone down really well. They give out little treats and bowls and dog poop bags, and I would like to ask that they make an effort to always hold the stall with a companion animal team when it's being held in an on or off leash dog park, and that we also add Lambert Park to the list of customer service venues for the Leichhardt ward, and that also is done with the companion animals team. It is rather more an informal dog walking area, but I think it would be useful for everyone.
Okay, thank you for that.
Seconded.
Seconded
and I waive my right to speak.
Seconded by the Deputy Mayor, who waives her right to speak. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the motion or to amend it? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Item 14,
Mayor?
FOGO monthly report. Councillor Howard.
I'd like to move the report with three amendments, that I provided earlier. As they're just coming up, I just want to thank, obviously, the staff again for their ongoing work to deliver FOGO, and really just sincerely thank our Inner West community for shifting approximately 6,000 tonnes of food from garbage landfill to FOGO compost in just over 7 months. It's a huge result. A quick Google reveals that that's the weight of 50 blue whales, Dylan, a whopping 600 Tyrannosaurus rexes, Dylan, and my favourite 10,000 polar bears. It's probably also about 10 bazillion of these little jars of compost. What's really exciting is that we are using that compost to grow food, and we are really creating that circular economy. It's really exciting.
I'll second Ms. Mayor.
More importantly, there's a massive 12,600 tonnes of CO2 and carbon emissions. That's the equivalent of taking 7,100 cars off our local roads each year. So that's really just an incredible effort. I think it's really important too that residents are continuing to take advantage of the pragmatic, simple measures that we've put in place to assist with the transition without the sort of end of days predictions we've heard from some. And I think it's important to note too later in the customer service report, that we've just seen, that overall complaints have now dropped below the typical annual levels that we've got across the council area. So I think we're doing really, really well as a community. The two amendments I have here is just to confirm that we will deliver 2 rounds of 75 compostable bags to people. The evidence is really clear that around 40% of people may stop engaging in FOGO if we do not provide those bags. And so I just really want to confirm that we will continue that. I'm asking staff to develop an opt-out process for households that don't wish to receive the compostable bags. And I'm asking that we review that at the end of the 24-25 cycle, just to make sure that it is fit for purpose and meeting the needs of the community.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, thank you for that. Will you refrain from speaking to it?
No, I'm going to speak to it.
Okay.
Just because Matt gave me a shout out, and the reason that the councillors have been given this jar of compost is because we're encouraging FOGO champions. So, like Matt, I'd just like to encourage our listeners, our many listeners, to become a FOGO champion. And it's great to know that we have not one statistician in the room, but actually 2 with Matt.
What would be impressive is if you ate some of the compost, just to prove your love for it. Okay, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Now, at the risk of displeasing a certain person, I do need to go to the toilet, so I'm going to ask the Deputy Mayor to jump in the chair just for a couple of minutes so that I don't have an accident.
Deputy Mayor, can I please move item 15 when you sit in what I hope is a dry chair?
You can, and it appears to be.
Thank you. I just have an amendment here, which is just suggesting that council commit to reapplying for grants to fund an EPS extruder that would allow the collection of polystyrene through community centres. So this is an excellent report, and I think it really is firming up that we're going to have an expansion of soft plastics in the Inner West, which I think is really, really exciting. I was really excited to understand that there is a procurement underway, and we'll get more information about that soon. Residents have been reporting to me when I've been out talking to them in the last couple of weeks and months that it can be up to a 7-month wait in some instances for Recycle Smart. And I think people do genuinely want to do more, and I really appreciate that staff are really working hard to see and help people to do more. So thank you. People will know that I'm really passionate about removing hard to recycle waste from our waste stream, and they'll know that I'm even more passionate to the point of obsession with EPS extrusion. The report clearly shows that polystyrene is a really difficult, hard to recycle item and is voluminous. It's the third largest product in terms of volume that we are trying to get rid of, and that Recycle Smart is collecting. And I noted in the report that it said that we were unsuccessful in the most recent round, but that if it continued to be an issue, we would apply. I'm just strengthening that somewhat, just to say that we are going to keep complying, because I think it's really important to send a message to the community that this is important and this is something we're going to keep working to. So thank you again for the staff for all they're doing to move us in this direction.
Mayor, can I please second this with enthusiasm? Yes. I will refrain from commenting.
Okay, thank you. So that's enthusiastically seconded. Is there anyone who wishes to oppose the motion?
I've got an amendment,
Please
which I said
proceed.
in the minute take. My amendment is that I think the report slightly misrepresents Red Cycle as being sort of some saint who failed in their business, and it was actually a con on all of our community about the fact that they had no recycling. So my amendment is that we write to the EPA, who has actually following up on this, the ACCC, who has in May just put an update about the recycling, and that there's also Senate inquiry currently into waste, and that we actually make a submission that we are actually paying for the, we're taking up the slack of Red Cycle Con through our domestic waste charge to residents. So that's how we're playing for Recycle Smart. From basically, I would like to see the people who are supposed to be, who have the producer responsibility, actually take that responsibility and pay for us to provide Recycle Smart or whatever in the interim till they restore their services. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. How do you feel about that amendment?
I don't want to pass this amendment. I understand where the intention is, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor De Cruz, but I just don't think this is a productive amendment. I think that you have plenty of platforms to make this point, and it doesn't need to be through a council motion and a letter to all these agencies that know that local councils are doing a lot of work to manage soft plastics, and I just don't think this is productive.
Is there a seconder for the amendment? If not, it will lapse. Councillor Stamoulis, do you wish to speak to it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Just a second. Okay. Any further discussion of the amendment? If not, I'll put the De Cruz Stamoulis amendment. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That's 2 votes in favour. All those against, please raise your hands. That is 12 against. That has been defeated. There's no further amendments. I'll go to Councillor Howard for a right of reply.
I'll waive my right of reply.
That's waived. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, that has been carried.
Mr. Mayor, could I please move item 16?
Yes.
I move the report with an amendment that I've circulated earlier, that Council publish and distribute a fridge magnet promoting Inner West Council's booked collection service to every household, included with an edition of the Inner West Community News, distributed in quarter 4/24, funded through the Domestic Waste Reserve or the budget review process. And I think I had, yes, and the waste calendar also included in there too. So look, I really appreciate the staff are working so hard on this, and I know we've had really good collaboration across the chamber from Councillor Langford and others on this issue. It is an ongoing issue that is kind of perennial, and I really do appreciate though that council is working really hard. Again, out talking to people recently, people have shown me, they've walked me to the laneways behind their homes or to, the streets, side streets next to their home, and shown me piles of rubbish that just keep replenishing over and over and over again. Council diligently come out and collect it, and I've been really excited to see in a lot of those instances that we've put posters up explaining how people can actually make that booked collection. We're obviously doing what we can to manage this issue. I'm just asking that we do this additional thing. Residents have raised with me that they would like to go back to having a good old fridge magnet on the fridge, which just is a reminder that people can actually call and make a booking, and it's a very simple process to do. And I think we could also use that opportunity just to provide a simple link to the waste calendar, again, just to back in the work that our staff are doing in getting that information out there. So it's really just a simple amendment seeking to get more information to the community about how we can continue to do the right thing and reduce waste.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Drury. Do you wish to speak to it? Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the motion or to amend it? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Item 17, Climate Change Risk Assessment Outcomes Report. Councillor De Cruz.
I'm happy to move it if no one else is moving, and
Well, no, everyone was happy to move it on block, but you requested that it be considered.
Okay, then I'll move it because I've got an amendment to it. One of the concerns I've got, and maybe we don't have it yet, is that simply a standard risk management process was standard was used, which is an international standard, which I think doesn't really address the climate change adaptation risks, which are quite specific. And I think the concern I have is that the greenhouse effect will actually have a bad impact on vulnerable people who are sleeping rough, say, and plants, animals across. I was going to put biodiversity, but I think it's actually all plants and animals, and lots of exotic plants and animals as well. So I think my biggest concern is that we actually need a biological green infrastructure to be protected, as well as our built environment, because we don't want to lose any more trees.
Okay, is there a seconder for the motion? If not, that will lapse.
Well, Chair, are you asking for a seconder for Councillor De Cruz's amendment?
Well, she's
because I'm happy to move the report as is and not the amendment, so perhaps we need to consider them in seriatim.
Or you could move an amendment to delete point 2.
Or a foreshadowed motion.
Happy to do that.
Okay, so Councillor Scott, the Deputy Mayor is moving an amendment to delete point 2, so in essence to go back to just adopting the officer's recommendation. Is there a seconder for that amendment?
Yes,
seconded by Councillor Drury.
Foreshadowed motion.
Are you also happy to second the primary motion, Councillor Scott? Yep, so that's seconded. We'll now debate the amendment to delete point 2. Do you wish to speak to that amendment? No.
Just to know, firstly, I don't understand it. And secondly, I think it doesn't add anything that's not already in the report.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to the amendment? Moved by Councillor... It's getting late. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Drury for deletion of point 2. I'll put that. All those in favour? Councillor Atkins, are you in favour? Yep. That's 13 councillors in favour of deleting it. All those against? 1. That has been deleted. We'll return to the primary motion. Is there any further amendment to it? If not, I'll put the De Cruz-Smith motion. All those in favour? All those against? That's been carried unanimously. We'll move on to Energy Efficiency Services.
Can I please move this with an amendment that's been provided as well?
You can.
Firstly, really exciting to receive this update on the energy efficiency pilot and to read about some of the great work that Council's been doing in partnership with the Women's Housing Corporation. I just have a very minor amendment which is on the screen. I note that they have written to us advising that they need to install scaffolding to implement some external window shutters. And so they need a tiny little top up on the budget to facilitate that, which I'm sure we can manage. So I would just move that we increase the funding with an additional $2,000 to enable that.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor D'Arienzo. Do you wish to speak to it? That's waived. Is there anyone who wishes to amend the motion or to oppose it? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Item 19, update on draft sponsorship policy.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to move the officer's recommendations on item 19.
You wish to speak to it?
I do not at this stage wish to speak to it.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by
like to
Councillor
second it
Stevens.
with
Do you
an
wish to
amendment,
speak to it?
please.
Councillor Stevens is waiving his right to speak. He's seconding the motion. Is there anyone who wishes to oppose the motion or to amend it?
I would like to amend it, please.
Yep, Councillor Atkins.
I've provided an amendment to the staff. This amendment reflects the reasons why we received this report in the first place. I do not believe that the amount that we receive in sponsorship is enough to justify sponsorship from organisations that receive their principal source of revenue from gambling activities. So I'd like to replace the fourth dot point on page 7 of the policy with the words, the grammar is not exactly right because of the introductory comment, but you can see what the point is. I'm sure staff can fix the grammar. Derive their principal source of revenue from gambling activities. I think it's clear what I'm trying to achieve here, that as a matter of ethics, we not take money from gambling. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there a seconder for the amendment?
Yes,
Councillor De Cruz, do you wish to speak to it? No?
Only to agree with what Councillor Atkins has said, particularly given the stance Council has taken previously with wanting to support gambling harm minimisation in our area.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I do not wish to incorporate this amendment and I'd like to speak briefly against it, please.
Yes, please proceed.
With great respect to Councillor Atkins, although I understand their intention, with respect, this was not what the report was asking us about. This report asked us to analyse the impact of a different proposed amendment, which was the impact of changing the policy to. And I might just ask councillors if they wouldn't mind reflecting on the list of venues that we do have sponsorship relationships with on page 972 of their pack. You know, one of these venues might be in your ward, and you might want to think about whether you enjoy the engagement with them in our various festivals. The Petersham RSL, West Ashfield Club, the Salisbury Hotel in Stanmore, the Gladstone Hotel in Dulwich Hill. And I would just like to briefly reflect on the Petersham RSL. I moved in a condolence motion a couple of meetings ago about former Mayor Evan Jones, whose memorial service was held at Petersham RSL. And I was seated at a table with a veteran who was being provided with services by the Petersham RSL, even in fact living in one of the new units at the Petersham RSL. And I believe that their worth to our community and their engagement with our festivals and our community activities is significant. And I would not like to deny them the opportunity to continue to do the good work that they do with the Inner West Council. I'll also note that in the Mayoral Minute, we have provided earlier this evening a re-upping of our commitment to helping smaller venues move away from poker machine revenue, and we're providing them with a network and our support to do that. And on that basis, I would like us to keep the sponsorship policy as is.
Okay, thanks for that. So is there anyone else who wishes to speak to the amendment? If not, I'll put that. It's the Atkins de Cruz amendment. All those in favour, please raise your hands. In support, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those against? There are 7 against. That has been defeated. We'll return to the primary motion. Is there any further amendment to the primary motion?
A minute, Mayor.
Yes.
Sorry, I think that's the Atkins-Lockie amendment, just for the record.
It was actually Councillor de Cruz who I agreed to seconding it, and Councillor Lockie spoke to it. I know. Okay. Sorry, it's confusing with the remote attendance. It's difficult for us to. Okay. Scusi?
Happy for Councillor Lockie to be recorded as the seconder.
It's already been voted on and been defeated, so we're now debating the primary motion. Is there anyone who wishes to further amend it? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? All those against? I'm going to recommit the vote because most people's hands weren't clear. We're voting on the primary motion, the Scott Stevens motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? Councillor Stamoulis is against. All others are in favour. That has been carried.
Mayor, can I please move item 21, the officer's report?
Yes. Do you wish to speak to it?
I do not.
Okay. Is there a seconder for the motion? Item 21, mandatory reporting to Council of reports received from Fire and Rescue New South Wales. Seconded. You wish to speak to it? Any amendment or anyone who's against it? No? We'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Steel Park dog off-leash area. Councillor Langford.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this motion is calling for Council to undertake community engagement to formalise an off-leash dog area in Steel Park, Marrickville. The area's been used for this purpose for a long time. It also calls for Council to investigate the need for additional traffic calming measures and to install additional amenities such as a bubbler and a rubbish bin. I want to thank residents for raising their concerns. I note that there was a petition with over 108 signatures. And I note that also in our delivery program, Council commits to delivering education activities to promote responsible pet ownership, including dog off-leash areas. I'm a dog owner myself, and I know it's really important for community to have spaces where they can allow their dogs to run around and also to socialise with each other. We know that dog walking is generally, you know, a very popular activity in our area. I do want to note that the speaker from the club who spoke against the motion, I believe that it's really important that we do have education for everyone, dog owners, that, you know, we need to make sure that space is respected. But we have a very dense area and we all are sharing spaces, as I think another speaker pointed out, and we all need to kind of work together to make sure that that works as well as possible. I do hope that you will support the motion. Thank you.
Ms. Mayor, I can second, please.
Yep.
I just have some amendments that I had discussed with Councillor Langford prior. If that could just be displayed. Yes, so the first amendment really is just specifically calling out that the consultation should occur with the sports clubs that use Steel Park, including the Marrickville Red Devils, who spoke earlier, and the PCYC. You know, I think it is increasingly difficult because we're sharing limited green space and open space, and there is going to be these tensions. And it's just really important that the clubs be included and specifically called out in the consultation. I'm also just adding a further point 6 that in the event that this dog off-leash area is formalised, that council would undertake some engagement around the arrangements at Marnie Reserve, which is not too far away. And I appreciate that, you know, big dogs go to Marnie and little dogs would go to Steel Park. But I think it would be important, again, just for us to really have a look at how that's all working with the sports clubs in particular. I've had players really express some concern that they've twisted ankles and these kinds of things. So we want to preserve the best shared arrangements we can, and I've just indicated there that, you know, the focus of the engagement should be around that additional education for dog owners using the park.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Langford, you happy to incorporate that?
Yeah, accepted. Thank you.
Anyone who wishes to speak against the motion or to amend it? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Item 24, notice of motion, Marrickville Park dual naming.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this motion is an invitation for the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Advisory Committee to provide ideas and recommendations for the dual naming of the area currently known as Marrickville Park. The motion was in response to the Local Democracy Group quarterly report in the May 21 meeting, where it was noted that the committee is supportive of dual naming of the major parks, and it would be good to have one major park within each ward dual named with the ward name. I'm really keen to see some action on this item. I guess it's really, I guess as a resident, I'd like to see more recognition of First Nations people. I'm sure that everyone here would. I want to note Councillor Howard's motion from December 2023, which he reminded me of today, which was to pursue dual naming of parks across the LGA and to suggest a process for that. I think that it's great that we have a process, but it's really important that we actually get some action. And I guess this motion is not intended to be prescriptive in any way to the committee. It's really just an invitation, and it may be deemed that this location is not appropriate for a dual naming, but I thought it would be really great to get the ball rolling and judge the level of interest from the committee. I also want to just say that, yes, obviously the council's naming policy would inform any decisions that were made, and that any suggestions would need to go through the Geographical Names Board, and first before that, the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council and any other people who need to be consulted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Howard?
Yes, thank you. I just have an amendment as well that I flagged with Councillor Langford earlier today, and I've provided to the note takers. And as Councillor Langford had said, that I'm really just seeking to align this approach with what we had agreed unanimously back in December, which is that we would do a consultation around the dual naming of our parks and ovals. And that we would consult with the Inner West Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Advisory Committee, which has happened, which is excellent, and that there would be a report back to Council with a consultation plan about how to engage with the Metropolitan Aboriginal Land Council and local residents, etc. And I'm just suggesting that just some additional words just to acknowledge that previous work that we've done, because Council staff are working on that, and I think that consultation process has occurred, and I think this just makes it clearer that we're not overriding that really important consultative process we've been on, and that within that framework, Council and then consider the motion that Councillor Langford has put forward.
So Langford, are you willing to incorporate that?
Thank you. Yeah, I just have one question which probably needs to go through you, Chair, to the relevant officer, just in regard to that framework. What would that mean in terms of this particular motion? When would the consultation occur with the Aboriginal Advisory Committee on the particular Marrickville Park?
I'll put that question to the council officers.
Through you, Chair. My understanding is that there have already, as Councillor Howard indicated, been discussions with the Advisory Committee. It's something they've been talking about on and off for some time. The framework, the broader sort of structure, is something they continue to discuss. I think these things sometimes take longer than one might anticipate just because of cultural issues, including some of the complexities with the land council occasionally. So does that answer your question?
I think so, but so if I may ask, just to clarify, so that means that it could happen, or it is already happening, or it will happen, that the framework will not slow the process down necessarily.
No, I don't believe it would.
Thank you.
We could also put it on the next agenda for the Advisory Committee.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you for that. So that's incorporated, is it? Okay, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, against, declare that carried unanimously. Wicks Park.
Sorry. Yes, there was just a clerical error, so I had provided some addition, actually a different version than what was printed in the original papers. So I apologise if councillors didn't have that earlier, but a printer copy was on our desk earlier today. Really, the change was that once I'd put in the initial motion, council officers let me know that we are about to start that plan and management process. So a lot of what I had before was redundant. Sorry. So really, what this is doing is that I wanted a motion here that's going to reflect some of the concerns that have been raised with me about the current state of Wicks Park. It's a beautiful park for those of you from the deep north who've located on the corner of Sydenham and Victoria Roads. It has some excellent tennis courts that are highly utilised, many beautiful trees, and thanks to a recent upgrade, one of the most beautiful toilets in the whole Inner West Council area. In recent years, however, there's been drainage issues which can make it a mud bath after rain. The playground has seen better days, and its location on the corner of two extremely busy days makes it very convenient, but also pretty loud and dusty at times. And of course, the Wicks Place development next door, which is due to open any day, has an additional 272 apartments, which is bringing more and more families right to the park's doorstep. One such family wrote to me this week, noting that they were excited to be moving into Wicks Place from Ashfield, welcome family, and that they were excited mostly about the local schools and the park. The family noted, however, that they'd like to see upgrades to the play equipment, and I'm looking forward to that plan and management process getting underway so we can prioritise some of those important projects. Residents have also noted concerns about the traffic arrangements around the park, including the intersection of Victoria and Sydenham Roads. It's just terrible. And there's a current traffic arrangement where the cars are permitted to turn right into the Wicks Park development heading north on Victoria Road, which is causing delays and congestion on Victoria Road. I've sought advice from the staff who are indicating that they're willing and able to look at this again to make sure that we're getting the proper fit-for-purpose traffic arrangements in and around the park. So the motion's just really seeking to address those issues. I just have one tiny amendment, actually. I made a mistake and I'm directionally challenged, and the bin is on the western side, not the eastern side. If you could just change that, please.
Thank you for that. Okay, is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Langford. Do you wish to speak to it? No? I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. I believe that brings us to the two remaining items in confidential session. So could I get a motion to go into confidential session? Moved by Councillor Howard, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. I will ask the council officers to let us know when the chamber has been cleared and the broadcast discontinued. Me to second the motion. Is there anyone who, do a straw poll, anyone opposed? No. Councillor Langford, you happy if we just pass it? I'll put the Langford Burn motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. I'll declare the meeting closed. Thanks very much, everybody.